The story begins by revealing that there is nothing crueler in the world than false hope. We see Estella weeping uncontrollably. A lady attempts to console her, but the heartbroken Estella laments that despite clinging to hope, Isaac ultimately married Lily, someone she believed he wasn't even compatible with. Recalling her 5 years of unrequited love, Estella remembers first meeting Isaac at a party where someone mentioned the heir to the frontier count was present. Estella saw a handsome man enter the room and fell instantly in love. Driven by her feelings, she rushed to her father. She declared her desire to marry Isaac, the heir to the frontier count. However, her father informed her that Isaac was already engaged to the eldest daughter of the Grand Duke. Unable to process the shocking news, Estella fainted, prompting her father to urgently call for a doctor. Estella was devastated by Isaac's engagement. She was ready to abandon all hope until her father delivered unexpected news. Isaac's wedding had been postponed. Initially indifferent, Estella's face lit up upon hearing this. Her father explained that he had asked Isaac's father for a favor, citing Estella's poor health and deep affection for Isaac. Although Isaac's father agreed to the postponement, he made it clear the wedding was always intended to happen after Isaac came of age. Thus, Estella began clinging to the false hope that Isaac's engagement might be broken. Her father unexpectedly encouraged her optimism. This fueled her fantasies. She anxiously awaited Isaac's return from the battlefield, clutching onto fragile hope. However, her world shattered when she witnessed Isaac happily marrying his beloved. While the crowd joyfully congratulated the couple, Estella was overwhelmed with grief, hiding her anguish. As the final chapter of her unrequited love story closed, a heartbroken and overwhelmed Estella slipped away from the wedding unnoticed. She found solitude beneath a tree near a pond, weeping as she wrestled with her emotions. She questioned how she could ever face Isaac again. Suddenly, a mysterious voice echoed, telling her to turn back time. Shocked and confused, Estella wondered if the immense stress was causing her to hallucinate. Approaching the pond, she noticed a strange figure in the water, but accidentally slipped and fell in. As she sank, Estella lamented the ironic fate of dying at the wedding of the man she loved. However, she then jolted awake. She realized she was alive. An elderly woman tearfully held her hand, calling her my princess. Estella, stunned, recognized her nanny, but was bewildered to see she looked much older, as if a decade had passed. Estella's nanny, overcome with emotion, pressed Estella's hand against her cheek, gently scolding her for frightening her by jumping into the pond. Confused, Estella insisted she hadn't intended to harm herself and asked where she was. She wondered if this was a room in the palace, but before her nanny could answer, 2 young children burst into the room crying, calling her mommy and clinging to her tightly. Estella was utterly stunned. Estella stammered, asking why they were calling her mommy. The little girl looked perplexed. Meanwhile, the little boy burst into tears. As Estella gazed at the children, they seemed disturbingly familiar. Just then, a man's voice interjected, expressing displeasure that she now seemed to be avoiding their children. Estella turned swiftly and saw Isaac standing before her. Startled, she asked why he was here and where she currently was. Isaac was clearly bewildered. He picked up the little girl, questioning why she was acting as if she had never seen them before. Utterly disoriented, Estella demanded to know where on earth she was and why everyone was treating her as Isaac's wife. She confronted Lily about what had happened, adamant that she had witnessed their wedding. Her mind raced, trying to make sense of Isaac's behavior and the children who called her mommy and clung to him as if he were their father. Clearly worried, Isaac decided to call the doctor again, suspecting Estella might have hit her head when she fell into the pond. Estella grew more panicked, recalling her fall into the pond during Isaac's wedding and wondering if this was all some elaborate prank. She demanded to know if Lily was involved, still unable to believe what was happening before her eyes. Isaac, now more alarmed, instructed Nana to fetch the doctor quickly. The little girl worriedly asked Isaac if their mommy had hurt her head, to which Isaac gently confirmed she had. As Estella looked closer at the children, she was stunned to see their faces and golden hair, making them look unmistakably like her own children with Isaac. But she was utterly bewildered, thinking, I have absolutely no memory of any wild nights with Isaac. Estella then noticed her reflection in a nearby mirror. She was shocked by her own transformation. The baby fat on her cheeks was gone, and the corners of her eyes were sharper. and more mature. Could this really be her? She wondered. Desperately, she asked, "What year is it?" Isaac replied, "The year 650. The answer struck her dumb. She realized it couldn't be true. Her last memory was from May 17th, 643, the day she had dreamed of being a May bride. She realized with horror that she had somehow traveled 7 years into the future. As she spiraled into disbelieving chaos, Isaac and the children watched her with growing concern. Soon, the doctor arrived and examined Estella. He concluded it was amnesia. She seemed to remember everything up until the age of 19, but had no recollection of anything afterward. It was likely partial amnesia. Estella, confused, questioned if it was truly possible to lose 7 years of memories. The doctor explained that the shock from falling into the pond could very well have caused a memory loss. Although there were no visible external injuries, she might experience headaches, and her memories could return fragmented. He prescribed a sedative to ease her confusion. Isaac asked what would happen if her memories never returned. The doctor reassured him that it wouldn't affect her ability to lead a normal life. He advised against forcing her to remember and suggested taking things slowly. After the doctor left, Estella nervously asked if the children were theirs. Isaac confirmed they were twins. Estella realized she was in the residence of the Frontier Count and deduced they must be married. Isaac confirmed this impatiently. Estella marveled at how much Isaac had changed over the past 7 years, noting he had become more handsome, taller, and more robust. With a mix of disbelief and pride, she thought about how she had ended up marrying such a strikingly handsome man and even had twins with him. She rejoiced inwardly at her unexpected future fortune, growing excited and letting out a surprised cheer. But Isaac, clearly annoyed, questioned her reaction. She tried to mask her excitement, jokingly comparing marrying him to winning the lottery. It only resulted in a nervous laugh. However, Isaac remained suspicious of her amnesia and accused her of possibly faking it to play a trick on him. He recalled how cold she had been towards him just the day before and questioned her sudden change in attitude. Estella began to feel uneasy, noticing Isaac's sharp gaze and sensing resentment in his eyes. She clasped her hands together, reminding him of the doctor's words, explaining that she wasn't trying to manipulate him. She expressed concern that he seemed angry with her and that they needed to understand each other better. Despite this, her heart still fluttered when she looked at him, finding it hard to believe they were in the process of getting a divorce. Isaac's words hit her like a bolt from the blue, and she protested loudly, asking why on earth they would be getting divorced, wondering if this was yet another cruel joke. The tension in the room thickened, the children distressed by the argument, clinging tightly to Isaac as they began to cry. Estella flinched, realizing the toll their conflict was taking on the family. Isaac informed Estella that once the divorce was finalized, he and the children would leave, telling her not to be too upset. He scooped up the children, ready to depart, but paused before reaching the door. He pointed out that the pond wasn't deep, with only soft sand beneath, hardly enough to cause harm. Isaac left the room, leaving Estella stunned in his wake. As she replayed the situation, she realized she had absolutely no memory of anything that happened after Isaac and Lily's wedding. Yet, the memories from 7 years ago felt incredibly vivid. She began to suspect she hadn't suffered amnesia at all, but had truly traveled into the future. Estella was filled with questions about Lily's wedding and frustrated by Isaac's unwillingness to speak with her. As she struggled to accept her current reality, she contemplated how different her marriage was from what she had imagined, wishing she could at least remember the birth of her twins. Confused about what had transpired, Estella tried to piece together the events. She asked Nana how she had lost consciousness. Nana explained that she had jumped into the pond herself. A servant saw her fall in, but couldn't reach her in time. Estella found these details perplexing, recalling hearing a voice telling her to turn back time. She decided to visit the pond herself, despite Nana warning her against sudden movements for her safety. Upon reaching the pond, Estella stepped in, confirming Isaac's words. The water indeed only reached her thighs. She stepped out, feeling even more uncertain about what had happened. She admitted she didn't know what she had hoped to find, but based on everything she observed, she believed there was only one explanation. Knowing no one would believe her if she voiced it, Estella resolved to find Isaac immediately and seek answers. Feeling overwhelmed, Estella asked Nana where Isaac was. Nana told her he was likely in the glass greenhouse with the children. Estella insisted on going there at once, but paused to ask a more pressing question. She revealed she had no memory of anything after the age of 19 and asked if the twins were truly her children. With Was she really married to Isaac? Nana assured her it was all true, but hesitated. When Estella asked why they were getting divorced, Nana grew uncomfortable, suggesting Estella ask Isaac directly for answers. But Estella was reluctant to approach him, intimidated by the way he looked at her. Despite her fear, Nana insisted that speaking with Isaac might provide the answer she needed, while admitting she could offer no further help. Estella arrived at the glass greenhouse. Nana knocked, announcing that Estella wished to speak with Isaac. Isaac invited them in. Nana advised Estella to remain calm during their conversation. Estella expressed doubt whether that was possible, given her confusion. Isaac was enjoying time with the children and asked if she was feeling better. She replied that her confusion prevented her from resting. She told him that figuring things out would help her regain her memories faster, but even if they didn't return, she needed to know what she had forgotten. Estella mentioned the pond she fell into, wondering if it had always been as shallow as it was now, asking if it was the same 10 years ago. Isaac confirmed it had always been that shallow. Meanwhile, the children whispered excitedly that Mama had come to the greenhouse and decided to make her some tea. Estella asked Isaac if the water had always been shallow, then shifted to his past, mentioning she remembered Isaac was supposed to marry her cousin, Lily Bertrand, and that the last thing she recalled was their wedding. Isaac responded with surprise, questioning if that was truly the last thing she remembered. Estella felt uncertain about Isaac's reaction, but continued explaining, even though she acknowledged her theory might sound incredible. She told Isaac that she believed she had traveled through time from 7 years ago, insisting it wasn't like simple amnesia. She explained that after falling into the pond, she hadn't been injured, which wouldn't make sense if it were amnesia. Estella maintained that on the day of Isaac and Lily's wedding, she had also fallen into the very same pond and had distinctly heard a voice telling her to reverse time, even calling her by name. Despite her candid confession, Isaac seemed unconvinced, which frustrated Estella, making her wonder if any trust remained between them at all. Her daughter, eager to help, handed her tea she had brewed herself, excitedly encouraging her to drink it. Estella took a hesitant sip, finding the taste rather unpleasant. But her daughter insisted she keep drinking, suggesting adding more sugar. As the children ran off to fetch the sugar, the atmosphere grew peaceful. Slightly flustered, Estella asked where she had left off in her explanation, and Isaac calmly told her to sit down. He offered her a cushion. Unaccustomed to sitting on the floor, Estella mentioned she never did so, even in the palace. Isaac removed his coat, spreading it on the ground for Estella to sit on. Once she was seated, Isaac inquired about her claim of time travel, asking if she meant her mind was that of a 19-year-old, while she was now actually 26. Estella confirmed this, explaining that on the day of Isaac and Lily's wedding, she heard a voice telling her to reverse time, which made her dizzy, causing her to fall into the pond and wake up 7 years later. She asked if he thought she was crazy, but Isaac reflected that her current behavior and words did indeed remind him of how she was at 19, admitting it was difficult to judge whether she was acting or if the time travel was real. Estella stated bluntly that she wasn't acting and asked if he was always so distrustful. Isaac replied that it was because a certain someone had made him that way, which startled Estella. The siblings ran towards Estella, holding a plate, the daughter excitedly urging her to try a macaron, while the son stood by eagerly. Feeling overwhelmed, Estella tried to ignore them, but the children, full of hope, asked her again. Drawn in by their excitement, Estella tried a macaron, praised it as delicious, and asked for another. Her daughter, thrilled, asked if it was really that good, and Estella affirmed it. She mused inwardly that the children were very cheerful, perhaps taking after her. Isaac explained they were more excited than usual because she rarely visited the glass greenhouse. The children then ran to Isaac, hugging him and announcing they had made more treats. Isaac praised their speed and commented that it smelled wonderful. The son then approached Estella, tugging at her skirt and holding his arms out for a hug. Estella hesitated for a moment, but then picked him up. Isaac told Lou not to trouble Estella too much, and the boy agreed, returning to Isaac's side. Estella hesitated, feeling as though she were meeting these two children for the first time. She nervously confirmed their names were Lou and Lucy Montez, but was surprised when Isaac corrected her. He stated their surname was Lestel, and the girl's name was Lucia Demeshin. Estella was both shocked and flustered, wondering who had chosen the names. Lou proudly admitted he had, and Estella affectionately pinched his cheek, though he turned away shyly. Estella tried again to explain that she didn't have amnesia, but believed she had come from the past to correct mistakes she had made. She felt the way Isaac and the children treated her was proof that something had gone wrong in the future. Isaac addressed Estella by name, and she paused before asking if they could perhaps cancel the divorce, stating that the 19-year-old version of her truly loved him. Isaac calmly replied that the divorce had been her idea, leaving Estella shocked and confused. Isaac explained that she was the one who had requested the divorce, even considering leaving the children in his care, hinting that she might see her family as a burden. Isaac stated that despite her claims of love, the future version of her had long planned to leave, and nothing could erase the pain he had already endured. He felt weary and walked away with the children. Lucy, noticing Isaac's distress, asked if he was crying, just as Lou stumbled. Isaac rushed over to check on Lou, apologizing for walking too fast and making sure he wasn't bleeding. Lou was crying. Lucy observed Isaac's expression and asked why he was crying. Isaac denied it, asking why she thought so. Lucy pointed out that he looked like he was squinting. Isaac apologized, promising not to make that face again. Lucy happily hugged him, reassuring him it was okay. Isaac recalled how just yesterday, Estella had barely acknowledged his presence, and despite their marriage and children, their relationship felt more like a performance. He realized Lou and Lucy felt awkward around Estella, and on the rare occasion she interacted with them, they were overjoyed. Isaac remembered Estella always being busy, seemingly uninterested in family life. He reflected on how the joy of their marriage had quickly faded due to their discord, and ultimately, it was Estella who gave up first. In a flashback from just a week ago, Estella expressed her frustration, telling Isaac she couldn't live with him anymore, planning to go abroad, having already arranged everything, including money and accommodation. Isaac, concerned, asked if there was another man, but Estella merely laughed. Back in the present, Isaac recalled Estella's strange claims of not remembering him, of being from the past to fix mistakes, and now professing her love for him. Isaac voiced his frustration, telling Estella that if she truly wanted to make amends, she should face him directly. He believed she had considered their meeting a mistake from the start, and warned her not to get her hopes up. He remembered how he had clung to a sliver of hope for years, unable to let go of the Estella he once knew, despite all the pain she had caused him. Isaac admitted that the promise he made to her when he was 19 had long lost its meaning over time. He recalled her words back then, telling him to always trust her, to wait for her, expressing her deep love for him. Isaac reminisced about the early days of their marriage, when they were happy and peaceful together. However, their joy was short-lived when they discovered Estella was pregnant. Isaac recalled how his happiness shattered when he learned of a deep secret she had kept from him. Though Estella had been his sanctuary, she had participated in a conspiracy, betraying him, which led to his parents being falsely accused of treason and Isaac's sister being exiled. And the mastermind behind it all was Estella, even though she knew the accusations were false. Estella had closed the investigation and sent his sister away. Isaac now saw her differently, this sweet, lovely woman he had once vowed to marry. Isaac, Lou, and Lucy shared a light-hearted moment, with Lou playfully hitting Isaac on the head. Isaac laughed, warning him not to do it again. The children giggled, and Isaac affectionately remarked that he was back to being their normal dad. He then asked if they were ready for bed, and the children eagerly agreed. Isaac tucked them in, and Lou expressed a desire to play a little longer. Isaac promised they could play after they fell asleep, mentioning the sleep fairy wanted to visit them. The children excitedly talked about how much fun they had with their mother, especially the macarons, with Lucy suggesting they make more. Isaac encouraged them to wait until they woke up, joking that they would feed their mother until she was stuffed and suggesting they prepare some stomach medicine for her too. After Lou and Lucy fell asleep, Isaac stepped out of their room, but just as he was about to close the door, Estella appeared suddenly, shouting that she couldn't get a divorce. Isaac quickly covered her mouth with his hand, signaling her to lower her voice so as not to wake the children. Estella apologized and insisted that she couldn't get a divorce, Surprised, Isaac asked why. Estella then questioned if she could possibly make amends for her past mistakes. Sighing, Isaac explained that those mistakes weren't so easily rectified, that the problem wasn't solely with her, but also with him. He was utterly exhausted. Still resolute, Estella asked what she could do to make him less tired, promising she would make him so incredibly happy that he would forget all the pain he had endured. Frustrated, Isaac told Estella it felt like talking to a brick wall, reminding her that back then, she was just an immature 19-year-old girl. He stated he would believe her claim of having traveled back from the past, but his mind was already made up about everything. Estella hesitated, fidgeting as she pleaded for just one more chance. She explained that she had loved him for 5 years. She admitted that while she couldn't remember hurting him, her love for him had never wavered, and she had no choice but to try and hold on to him. She begged for a chance, even just during the period while the divorce was being processed. Isaac was taken aback by her sudden change in attitude. He pointed out that only yesterday she had looked at him with eyes full of contempt, yet now she was begging for an opportunity. Isaac agreed to give Estella one chance. He added, however, that he wanted to hurt her just as much as she had hurt him. As he walked away, Estella muttered to herself that at least she had secured a chance. She resolved to rectify the mistakes her future self had made. Comforting herself, she felt confident in her abilities as the beloved princess and heir to the kingdom, believing a happy ending to the story was guaranteed. 2 weeks later, Estella felt drained and frustrated, complaining about Isaac's cold and stubborn demeanor. Despite her efforts, including showering him with gifts, it felt like talking to a brick wall. Nana advised her that love couldn't be bought with material possessions. Estella asked what else she could possibly do, expressing her desperation over Isaac's refusal to communicate with her. She lamented his harsh treatment, comparing it to him spitting on her, or even worse, coughing up thick phlegm. Nana advised Estella to watch her language, pointing out that she was currently behaving like her younger self. She reminded Estella that even if her memories were gone, she should strive to act like her usual, composed self. Estella asked what she had been like in the past. Nana described her as neat, refined, and level-headed, someone who would never speak of things like spitting or phlegm. Astonished, Estella asked if she had truly been that mature. As Nana began to nag, Estella insisted that this was the real her. But Nana explained that she had grown more mature with age, and even more so after getting married. Curious, Estella asked how her personality had changed after marriage. Nana hesitated for a moment, saying that Estella had undergone many changes overall, which she viewed as a sign of growth. Estella then voiced her concern about the cruel things she might have done to Isaac, asking if this was part of her transformation. Flustered, Nana refused to comment on marital matters, leaving Estella shocked and bewildered. Nana reassured Estella that it wasn't her place to interfere in her relationship with Isaac. All she could do was observe. Eager to reflect and make amends, Estella insisted on knowing how she had treated Isaac in the past. Nana hesitated. She stated there had been numerous mistakes and cruel actions, which made Estella determined to hear about them if she truly wanted to change. Reluctantly, Nana revealed that Estella often isolated herself in her room for long stretches, dismissing all the servants and even forbidding Isaac from entering. Although no one directly witnessed anything, the situation sparked rumors of infidelity. Estella reportedly brought different men to the estate daily, leading to such conclusions. This revelation left her utterly horrified and speechless. Internally, Estella reflected on how depraved she must have become, feeling deeply embarrassed and overwhelmed. She clutched at her hair, unable to believe her past actions. Nana tried to soothe Estella, urging her to focus on moving forward rather than dwelling on guilt. Tearfully, Estella insisted she had always been serious. Nana comforted her, saying that while her gifts were prepared with heart, she hadn't yet truly understood Isaac's feelings, suggesting she express her sincerity through words or a heartfelt letter instead. Filled with doubt, Estella questioned if Isaac would even listen to her explanations, given her infidelity. Nana gently replied that only the Estella of the past knew the truth. Estella resolved, determined, to confront the men rumored to have been involved with her, vowing to uncover the truth. When Nana hesitantly asked if she planned to involve Isaac in this endeavor, Estella firmly decided to face them alone first. She conceded that if they confirmed she had indeed had affairs, then she truly was the worst kind of person. Overwhelmed by despair, Estella recalled how confident she had been just days ago, thinking reconciliation would be simple. Now she doubted herself and her past actions, feeling unworthy of forgiveness, and lamenting that if the rumors of her infidelity were true, she deserved only condemnation. Burying her head in Nana's lap, she sobbed loudly, voicing her fears. She cried that her chances of reuniting with Isaac seemed slim, and if she had truly committed such terrible acts, letting him go might be the only just option. Nana gently consoled her, reminding Estella that Isaac still chose to live under the same roof, indicating he might not have completely let go of his feelings. She advised Estella against excessive self-blame, urging her instead to focus on making amends. Nana added that no marriage was without its difficulties, reassuring Estella that many couples face their own struggles and worked through them. Estella vented her frustration, questioning if other couples face situations as extreme as hers, being served divorce papers with a husband declaring he could endure no more. She called Isaac a stubborn man, prompting a mild rebuke from Nana for her choice of words, urging her to maintain some decorum. Estella dismissed the remark, arguing heatedly that decorum was the least of her concerns given her current predicament. Desperate for clarity, she gripped Nana's hand tightly, demanding the truth. Nana posed a hypothetical scenario, asking Estella what she would do if her husband, after filing for divorce, suddenly changed his mind and wanted to reconcile. Estella declared fiercely, without mercy, that she would ensure such a man could never be with another woman again. However, as she reflected on her own actions, a cold sweat broke out as she realized she was the one who deserved such a label. Sensing her slip up, Nana quickly made an excuse to leave, pretending to hear young Master Lu crying, even though Estella calmly pointed out she heard no such thing. Nana hastily got up, announcing her departure, but Estella called out after her. Nana tried to change the subject, suggesting a visit to Count and Countess Chess, mentioning their miraculous reconciliation after canceling their divorce. Estella remained skeptical, asking if Count Chess could possibly be as bad as she was. Nana enthusiastically confirmed that he was indeed just as bad, perhaps even worse. This failed to lift Estella's spirits, who inwardly questioned if the comparison was meant to cheer her up. Nana shifted topics again, boldly suggesting that Estella and Isaac should start sharing a bed again. Estella hesitated, shocked, but Nana explained that since Estella had already started leaving her own room, she simply needed to return to sleeping in Isaac's room. Estella silently repeated the idea, considering it. She decided to give it a try, thinking perhaps physical proximity might help her reconnect with him. Nana reassured Estella that Isaac was unlikely to make any advances, causing Estella to flusteredly clarify her intentions were entirely pure. She reasoned that sharing a bed would at least force them to face each other, allowing conversations to happen more naturally. With renewed determination, she decided not to consult Isaac and simply move her belongings into his room. Anticipating his resistance, as the scene shifted, Isaac firmly rejected her request. A shocked Estella demanded an explanation, and Isaac reminded her that while leaving the room had been her choice, allowing her back was his decision. He chastised her for leaving without a word, and now wanting to return so abruptly. Flustered, Estella pointed out that their conversations always led nowhere and argued that sharing a bed was a step towards mending their relationship. Isaac countered, asking if giving her a chance meant he had to grant all her demands. Estella nervously clarified that she wasn't trying to control him, merely wishing to experience a relationship like other married couples. After a moment of thought, Isaac agreed, much to Estella's surprise. Both bewildered and thrilled by his sudden decision, she exclaimed she would go pack her things immediately. Isaac calmly encouraged her to do so. The maids observed the situation, gossiping about the couple sharing a room for the first time in 3 years. Some speculated whether this meant they were reconciling, though it seemed unlikely. In her room, Estella began sorting through her belongings, noting how much she owned. She stumbled upon a large collection of jewelry, particularly rings, and muttered to herself why she possessed so many, feeling it was extravagant. Suddenly, Isaac appeared behind her, coolly commenting that she should continue reminiscing. Confused, Estella asked what he meant. Isaac revealed that those rings were all gifts from her lovers. Shocked, Estella recoiled in disbelief. Isaac casually pointed out that the jewelry box contained gifts from Estella's lovers, highlighting her past obsession with rings. Flustered, Estella laughed nervously, insisting she no longer cared for such things, and awkwardly suggested disposing of them, inwardly cursing herself for opening the box and making things worse. Unexpectedly, Isaac stepped closer, causing Estella to blush furiously as she stammered, trying to understand what he was doing. He calmly reminded her that she wished to live like a normal married couple. To her shock, he began unbuttoning his shirt, making her eyes widen in panic. Covering her face with her hands, she protested loudly, telling him to stop. Isaac nonchalantly pointed out that he was the one undressing, not her. Mortified, Estella shrieked at him to cover himself up, to which he commented that she had been watching him. Embarrassed and defensive, she leaped up, denying his claim and insisting they couldn't do this. Overwhelmed by the situation, Estella shyly wrapped herself in a blanket, crying out that she was only 19. Isaac retorted that she had married him at 19 and reminded her they had already spent their wedding night together. Flustered, Estella pushed him away, insisting she wasn't ready now. Isaac sarcastically asked if she thought their twins were delivered by storks. An embarrassed Estella stammered that, in her memory, Isaac and Lily's wedding felt recent, and they hadn't even held hands yet. She stressed that there was a proper order to things. Isaac questioned why she wanted to share a bed again then. She clarified she just wanted to literally sleep together. He calmly replied that she should have said so earlier. Annoyed, Estella insisted she had, meaning she just wanted to talk. Isaac smirked, claiming he misunderstood and thought she wanted to converse physically. Clutching the blanket tightly, Estella cried out flusteredly, asking if Isaac enjoyed embarrassing her. Without hesitation, Isaac admitted that he did. He explained that because she had been so cold to him in the past, seeing her flustered now was amusing. He added that it was refreshing to see her initiating conversation, especially since she always rejected him whenever he tried to speak with her previously. Irritated, Estella retorted that he sounded childish. Isaac chuckled, acknowledging it but stating he was having fun and hoped they could continue having more fun together. Hopeful, Estella asked if this meant he would postpone the divorce, to which Isaac replied that he would, but only if she contented herself with their relationship remaining purely superficial. Though disheartened, Estella remained determined, insisting that the surface was a foundation, as feelings could unexpectedly regrow. She vowed to make him say, "I love you" to her one day. Isaac, with a smirk, simply wished her good luck. In the dead of night, Estella lay awake, her mind racing, glancing at Isaac sleeping peacefully beside her. She wondered if it was the simple fact of sharing a bed with a man, or if it was because it was Isaac that made her heart pound so fiercely. Reflecting on their past, she questioned how things had come to this, and how she had ended up hurting him so deeply. As morning arrived, Estella found herself gazing at Isaac's sleeping face, a gentle smile playing on her lips. She admired how relaxed and peaceful he looked, unlike the neutral or frowning expressions he usually wore for her. She marveled at his handsomeness and silently asked herself how she could have ever considered letting someone like him go. Driven by the moment, she reached out, gently tracing his cheek with her finger, wondering what dreams he might be having. Suddenly, Isaac stirred awake. Caught off guard, a startled Estella quickly tried to deflect, remarking that he looked like he was having a nightmare. She playfully warned him that if he kept frowning like that, he'd get wrinkles before his time. Isaac, still groggy, asked if he really frowned so much in his sleep. Estella nodded in confirmation, asking if he had dreamt of something bad, showing her concern for him. Isaac reassured her he was fine, but she pressed further, curious about what kind of dream could make him toss and turn so much. Instead of answering, Isaac sat up, lost in thought, posing a vague question back, asking her what kind of dream she thought it might be. Estella hesitated, unsure how to respond, then voiced her concern again, defensively asking if she wasn't allowed to worry about him. Just then, the servants knocked on the door. They announced that washing water had been delivered, asking if they should return later, but Isaac quickly told them now was fine. As the servants prepared things, Isaac reflected inwardly. He recalled the day he had returned here, leaving behind his wedding to Lily Bertrand. He thought about how Estella remained oblivious to everything that had happened, how she had stood by while his parents died, and how she continued to live, neither knowing nor understanding the depth of his pain. He considered that if he were to leave the Meshans family, everything between them would simply end. Once ready, Isaac left the room alone, leaving Estella both flustered and annoyed, complaining aloud that they were supposed to leave together. She hurried to get ready, muttering about how he had finished first and just left without waiting for her. Nana approached with good news, informing Estella that Count Chess had agreed to see her. Nana handed her a letter. After reading it, Estella smiled in relief and asked for paper and a pen to write a reply. Once prepared, Estella came out to the main hall where Isaac noticed her and asked where she was going. Estella, nervous, vaguely replied she was meeting someone, avoiding revealing the true purpose of her outing. She panicked inwardly, knowing she couldn't admit she was going to meet Count and Countess Chess to ask for advice on how to mend her marriage. Isaac seemed unconcerned, responding casually. Estella quickly assured him she wasn't going to meet another man. Isaac chuckled, dismissing Estella's assurance, which shocked her, unable to believe his indifferent reaction. She resolved to see the chases quickly and return home without any trouble. Estella arrived at the Rhodonia salon, feeling a wave of nervousness as memories flooded back. She recalled frequenting this place 7 years ago, but was now unsure who its current owner was. Madame Lauren greeted her warmly, expressing delight at her visit and inviting her to take her time and enjoy herself. She politely inquired if Estella was there to see someone specific. Estella noted Ren's distinct style and accent, which seemed reminiscent of the neighboring country, Italy. Ren quietly informed Estella that the men she had met before were requesting another meeting. Confused, Estella asked who they were. Ren elaborated that the gentleman had brought jewelry, as she had requested. Hearing this, Estella grew even more bewildered. However, Ren excitedly described the gorgeous crimson rubies the men had brought, suggesting they could be fashioned into a ring or necklace like the ones Estella used to cherish. Panic began to set in for Estella. She broke into a nervous sweat as thoughts raced through her mind. She envisioned Isaac furiously confronting her, accusing her of lying about wanting to make amends before storming off with Lucy. The fear of this possibility struck her, and she instinctively tried to flee the scene. Ren, however, stopped her, asking what she meant. Estella hesitated before replying, wondering aloud if the men truly liked her that much. Ren, somewhat perplexed, tentatively confirmed this. Estella, steeling her resolve, stated firmly that she could not accept their gifts. She asked Ren to convey her gratitude, but insisted on refusing the jewels and everything else. Ren looked surprised and tried to argue, but Estella cut her off decisively, declaring she had decided to focus solely on one man. She was determined to do everything possible to atone for her past mistakes. Changing the subject, Estella asked if the Chess couple had arrived for their meeting. Ren, momentarily taken aback, confirmed they had and led her to them. Upon entering the room, Ren announced Estella's arrival to Count and Countess Chess before excusing herself. As Ren departed, she mused over Estella's unusual behavior, wondering if it was part of some larger scheme, but deciding she could only wait and see. Estella nervously sniffled as she sat down opposite Isaac, who was calmly sipping his tea. Her mind raced, wondering why he wasn't curious about whom she had met or if he noticed her overly bright demeanor. Most people, she thought, would ask questions or comment if something good had happened. She lamented inwardly that it was her idea to have tea together 3 times a day, yet she struggled to find the right topics, her mood sinking. Meanwhile, Isaac silently pondered her recent meeting. He refrained from asking, however, remembering how she used to dislike such questions. Their children, Lou and Lucy, burst in suddenly, calling for Estella and asking where she had been. They eagerly pleaded with her to play with them. Estella reflected internally, acknowledging the valuable insights she gained from her conversation with the Chess couple. In a flashback, Countess Chess had explained the complexities of reconciliation after divorce. She mentioned recent legal changes making reunions more difficult, including the inability to overturn a divorce decree once approved. Furthermore, there was now a reconciliation tax and a mandatory 3-year separation restriction. Estella recalled her conversation with Countess Chess, remembering her advice about extending the grace period before the divorce was finalized. She learned that while the mandatory waiting period could be extended by up to 2 months before its conclusion, the divorce proceedings would then move toward the final judgment. Countess Chess had also stressed that while marriage requires careful consideration, divorce demands even more, especially when children are involved. Estella had asked if she ever reconsidered her own divorce for the sake of her children. The Countess admitted she had thought about it, but the final decision wasn't based solely on the children. She explained that children cannot thrive in a home where parents are unhappy, and she was confident in her ability to raise them well alone. What changed her mind about taking her husband back was one thing only: sincerity. Countess Chess had once advised Estella to show sincerity towards her husband, suggesting she start by getting closer to the children. She explained that if you give love to children, they will return that love manifold. Respect them, teach them etiquette, and love them just as you would anyone else. Returning to the present, Estella's thoughts were interrupted as her children, Lou and Lucy, ran towards her excitedly, calling out Mama. She watched them with a warm smile, a renewed sense of determination filling her heart. The children eagerly asked her to play, pulling Estella from a reverie. They enthusiastically suggested playing house, promising to make delicious things for her. Smiling warmly, Estella took their hands and agreed to join in. The children cheered with delight. As they played, Estella noticed how much Lucy resembled her younger self, always taking charge, while Lou quietly went along with her plans. Then, Lou approached Isaac with a bright smile, inviting him to join them. Lucy chimed in as well, enthusiastically trying to persuade him. Isaac glanced at Estella, who offered a nervous smile, urging him to join. Lucy insisted that Isaac play the role of the baby. Although Isaac joked he was too big to play a baby, he obliged under Lucy's persistence, lying down on the floor to play along with the children. Watching the scene unfold, Estella couldn't help but chuckle softly at Isaac lying on the floor. Lucy excitedly assigned her a role, calling her the nanny. When Estella asked what role Lucy herself was playing, Lucy proudly announced she was the mother and Lou was the father. The game began, with Lou mimicking lulling words, gently putting Isaac to sleep. Lucy, imitating Estella's mannerisms, called for the nanny. Amused, Estella played along as the servant, asking if Madame was tired. Lucy responded dramatically, feigning exhaustion from work. Lou, in his role as Isaac, tried to interact with Lucy, calling her darling, but Lucy impatiently dismissed him, displaying exaggerated frustration. Estella watched in disbelief as Lucy insisted she was tired, then picked up Isaac, scolding him for not crying like a real baby. Both bewildered and surprised, Estella silently wondered if this make-believe family was a bit strange. Lucy continued to berate Isaac for not crying, fully immersed in her role. Observing the children's behavior nervously, Estella began to suspect that Lucy and Lou were mimicking her and Isaac. To divert their attention, she suggested making macarons together. Lucy agreed excitedly, and Lou shyly insisted on helping too. As they played and prepared the macarons, Estella carefully asked Lucy what Mama Lucy would say when a baby cried. Lucy innocently replied that Mama would tell the nanny to take care of the baby because she was too busy with work. Hearing this, Estella felt a pang in her heart and hesitantly asked if Mama had really said such things. Lucy cheerfully confirmed it, leaving Estella dismayed. Estella reflected, wondering if she had truly said those words, becoming emotional. Lucy noticed and asked if Mama was crying. Estella apologized to the children, her heart heavy with guilt. Lucy and Lou tried to comfort her, pleading with her not to cry. Though she assured them she wasn't crying, Estella inwardly lamented the mistakes she had made in her marriage. She recalled how carefree and deeply in love she once was, unable to understand how she could have gone so wrong. Her thoughts drifted to Isaac, realizing their daughter had picked up on their troubled relationship. Yearning for comfort, she found herself missing her father. Isaac entered the room, asking Lucy what was taking so long. Lost in her thoughts, Estella wondered what Isaac must have felt seeing the children mimic their problematic family dynamic. She guessed he must resent her deeply. The children rushed towards Isaac, embracing him joyfully. Noticing Estella sitting quietly, Isaac lifted her chin, asking why she looked so troubled. Isaac approached, carrying a plate of macarons meticulously crafted from mud by Lucy and Lucy, brimming with excitement, urged Estella to try one. Though slightly apprehensive, Estella feigned delight, praising boasting its exquisite taste. Overjoyed, Lucy promised to make more for her later. Estella penned a letter and handed it to her maid, instructing her to deliver it to her father without delay. The maid agreed, though a flicker of hesitation crossed her face. Noticing this, Isaac inquired if Estella was sending a letter to her father. Estella confirmed, explaining her desire to see him and asking if there had been any changes to the divorce laws. Isaac hesitated before breaking the news. He revealed that the former king, Estella's father, King Benjamin, was in critical condition. Stunned, Estella repeated the words former king. Isaac clarified that King Benjamin was alive, but currently comatose. Visibly distressed, Estella struggled to process the staggering news about her father. She questioned Isaac, asking if her father wasn't the current king. Isaac confirmed he was not. Bewildered and frustrated, Estella wondered aloud why she was even here. She cast her mind back to her upbringing, recalling how she had been groomed since childhood as the sole heir to the Meshan kingdom, studying extensively for her eventual reign. She remembered the moment her father placed the crown upon her head, affirming her role as the future monarch. Even now, Nana still addressed her as princess. Yet, her current life with her family felt worlds away from the palace. Estella had always assumed her father was alive and well. In frustration, she slammed her hand on the table, demanding Isaac tell her who the current monarch was. Isaac calmly replied, revealing the current ruler to be River Bertrand. Reeling from Isaac's revelation, Estella tried to piece everything together. She confirmed with him that her godfather was ruling, which meant her father was receiving treatment within the palace. Isaac explained that while her father was currently unconscious, he could awaken at any moment. Her resolve hardening, Estella informed her maid she would go to the palace the next morning, to which the maid reluctantly agreed. A distraught Estella turned to Isaac, demanding to know why she, the rightful heir, was not ruling the kingdom. Isaac hesitated, then admitted he wasn't sure if she would believe him. He unveiled the rumors that haunted him, accusations that he had betrayed the kingdom, claims that he married her to save his own life after his parents were executed for allegedly plotting to poison her father. He shared that unlike his exiled sister, he had been spared but lived constantly under a cloud of suspicion. Isaac insisted his parents were framed, yet all evidence pointed towards them. He acknowledged the gravity of the situation. Her father lay comatose, and the true culprit remained unidentified. He confessed he hadn't told her sooner, knowing how little she understood about what had truly transpired. However, he assured her that once she went to the palace, she would learn everything. Overwhelmed by anger and grief, Estella confronted Isaac, accusing him of concealing the truth for over a month. She slammed her fist on the table again, demanding why he hadn't spoken sooner. She accused him of deliberately pretending everything was fine. She questioned if he intended to forget everything and carry on as if nothing had happened. In her frustration, she struck Isaac across the face, leaving a welt on his cheek. Trembling with emotion, Estella voiced her anguish, accusing Isaac of being content with her newly developed feelings, as if that meant they could avoid divorce. She condemned him for keeping her father's critical condition a secret, feeling foolish for having been unaware. Estella recounted bitterly how she had pleaded with him for another chance while he harbored such a monumental truth. She questioned his earlier hesitation, asking when exactly he had planned to tell her the truth about their families and the rebellion. Estella declared she wasn't as naive as he thought, referencing the tangled web of tragedy surrounding them: his parents' execution, her father's illness, the rebellion, and his exiled sister. Her words, sharp with the sting of betrayal she felt, cut him deeply. Isaac, clearly distraught, apologized, insisting he hadn't meant to toy with Estella by avoiding the subject. He admitted he shouldn't have said certain things, confessing he had evaded the truth in the hope that things might change. He acknowledged she was no longer the Estella he once knew. He believed that perhaps, this time, she might truly keep her word. Overwhelmed, Isaac couldn't continue and abruptly rose to leave, suggesting she rest. Left alone, Estella was consumed by sorrow and confusion. She replayed his words, questioning where things had gone so wrong. Isaac's comment about her keeping her word lingered in her mind, leaving her uncertain of his meaning. She wondered if the previous border count had truly been executed for treason based on false accusations, and if her marriage to Isaac was meant to prove her love for him. Yet, doubts plagued her, unsure if everything Isaac had revealed was the complete truth. The next morning, a carriage was prepared for Estella. Nana hesitantly explained she had intended to wait until Estella had settled in before revealing the truth, fearing the news would be too overwhelming. Estella reassured her it wasn't her fault, reminding herself that her father was still alive, merely unconscious. She expressed her desire to see her godfather and understand what had happened regarding the succession. Noticing Isaac's absence, she inquired about him and learned he had spent the night in another building. Recalling their argument, she regretted not listening to his explanation and realized the slap must have hurt, seeing the redness on his cheek. Just as the carriage was about to depart, Isaac suddenly opened the door, stunning Estella. His cheek still swollen, he simply stated they should go together. When she asked why, he offered no specific reason, only that they should go together. Estella questioned Isaac's sudden decision to accompany her, finding his reasoning unconvincing. Isaac dismissed her concerns, stating there was no particular reason. She shouldn't misunderstand. He simply didn't want to hear news of his wife collapsing in the royal palace. Embarrassed, Estella apologized for slapping him, admitting her hand had moved faster than her thoughts. Isaac reassured her it was all right, as he wasn't proud of his own earlier actions either. When she asked if he had iced his swollen cheek, he casually replied he hadn't. Concerned, Estella placed her hand on his cheek, remarking that his handsome face was swollen, only to become flustered by her own words. Before she could withdraw her hand, Isaac gently caught it. He pressed her hand against his cheek, causing her to blush as he let out a soft chuckle. He noted how cold her hand was. Estella replied it had always been that way, and Isaac gently mentioned their daughter Lucy resembled her. Estella asked if everything Isaac had told her the previous day was true, which he confirmed. She then pressed further, asking if his parents were executed after being falsely accused of plotting to poison her father, to which he affirmed. She also confirmed his sister's name was Elena. Curious about their past, Estella asked if she had previously refused to believe him and if that was the reason their relationship deteriorated. She also wondered if she had truly married him in exchange for his life, as he had implied. Isaac denied this, explaining their relationship hadn't always been so strained. They had lived peacefully at first, but everything changed abruptly. His parents were accused of poisoning the king, inciting rebellion, and tax evasion. Around the same time, he divorced Lily Bertrand, which wasn't surprising given the circumstances. Despite Duke Bertrand's attempts to assist with the investigation, the judiciary hastily closed the case. It was then that Estella approached him, expressing her doubts about the accusations against his father. She proposed reopening the investigation. They married just before he faced his own death sentence, and he changed his surname. Estella realized Lou and Lucy took her surname because Isaac had altered his identity. Isaac explained their original plan had been to launch a new investigation into his parents' case. But Estella had terminated the investigation. Shocked, she questioned him, and he confirmed it was she who had ended it, branding his parents as traitors. He also revealed that she had sent Alina, the only person who could prove his father's innocence, abroad. All of this transpired while she was carrying Lou and Lucy. Following these events, their relationship began to fracture. Estella felt a pang of remorse. She apologized and promised she would not deceive or betray him this time. As they reached the palace, Estella noticed how much it had changed. The once beautiful rose bushes and fountains were gone. The palace guards hesitated slightly upon seeing her, but welcomed her formally. She informed them she was there to check on her father's condition and wished to see her godfather, requesting to be led the way. A girl stepped forward, ready to escort her to the king, addressing her as princess and stating she could take her to his majesty immediately. However, Estella insisted on seeing her father first, adding she would visit her godfather afterward. The girl hesitated for a moment, then agreed, leading her inside. As they walked through the hall, an announcement echoed, "Princess Estella has arrived." Estella entered the room and saw her father lying unconscious, looking incredibly frail. She was stunned by his terrible condition, wondering if he was truly still alive. The doctor assured her he was still breathing, though his situation appeared grave. Gazing at her father's weakened form, Estella found it hard to believe he had become so frail. Isaac inquired about the treatment, and the doctor explained they were doing everything possible to aid his recovery. Isaac then decided to leave the room, leaving Estella alone with her father. She took his cold, thin hand, pressing it against her cheek, speaking softly to him, introducing herself, calling him father with deep affection. She inwardly regretted only thinking of him when she herself was in trouble. Overwhelmed by guilt, she apologized repeatedly for not visiting sooner, blaming her own immaturity. She remembered his strong, warm embraces from the past, a stark contrast to the frail man before her now. As night fell, Estella continued to plead with him to wake up. She desperately wished for him to open his eyes, unable to bear seeing him in such a state. Stepping out of the room, she apologized to Isaac for keeping him waiting, saying she had composed herself. Yet, no sooner had the words left her lips than she burst into tears, unable to hold back her sorrow any longer. She gasped for breath between sobs. Seeing her distress, Isaac stepped forward and gently comforted her. Estella continued to weep in Isaac's arms, overwhelmed by memories of her father's kindness. She realized he had done so much for her that she had never noticed the absence of a mother in her life. His gentle voice, warm hugs, even his nagging, all seemed lost forever. Isaac offered her a handkerchief, which she accepted with a sob, dabbing at her tears as she thanked him. She reminded herself to be strong. There were important matters to address. If the former Marquis had been framed, it meant the real culprit was still at large. Steeling her resolve, she declared she must see her godfather. Shortly after, Estella met her godfather, River, who greeted her warmly. Seeing him unchanged brought her a sense of relief. She recalled how he had been a close friend of her father's since their academy days, and how he had lovingly accepted the role of her godfather, treating her as his own daughter. River encouraged her to visit often, mentioning her father must be lonely. Then, noticing her tear-streaked face, he commented on her red eyes, asking if she had been crying. Estella tried to compose herself and asked him how he had been. River enveloped her in a comforting embrace. She apologized for arriving so abruptly, but he reassured her there was no need, reminding her that this royal palace was hers as well, and she was welcome anytime. Isaac bowed respectfully to River, who recognized him, remarking, "It's been a long time." Isaac responded politely, expressing his own pleasure at seeing him again. River then turned back to Estella, inquiring about the matter she wished to discuss. Estella suggested they talk inside. There were too many people around. Once they were in the room, River asked what was so secretive that it required a private conversation. Taking a deep breath, Estella asked her godfather to listen carefully and not be too alarmed. She then revealed that she had lost all memory after a certain age. River paused, then chuckled, assuming Estella was joking. He recalled her penchant for mischief in the past and thought this was another one of her pranks, especially since she had been quiet for some time. However, Isaac interjected, confirming she was telling the truth. He explained that Estella genuinely had no recollection of anything beyond a certain point in her life. Utterly shocked, River pressed for details on how it happened. Isaac elaborated that Estella had missed her step and fallen into a pond, likely hitting her head in the process. Deeply concerned now, River asked Estella if this was true. She nodded in confirmation. River confirmed that Estella's last memory was of Lily and Isaac's wedding. Estella nodded, explaining her need to understand everything that was currently happening. She admitted she had heard about the Diaz family situation, but she was confused about her father's critical condition and why she hadn't inherited the throne. To clarify things, she requested Isaac wait outside. Isaac agreed and stepped out. Estella then asked River if she had negotiated the transfer of the throne to him in order to protect Isaac. River confirmed this, explaining it was likely done to gain judicial authority. Estella recalled the kingdom's laws, realizing that while the monarch lacked judicial power and could only offer opinions, princes and princesses were not bound by this limitation. This led her to wonder if that was precisely why she had relinquished the throne. River reassured Estella that he was ready to return the throne to her whenever she felt prepared. He acknowledged that her desire at the time had been to continue investigating the Diaz case, which explained why she had entrusted the throne to him. He then asked again if she had truly lost her memories. Estella confirmed that everything after a certain age was gone. River inquired if her memories might return, but she told him the doctors were uncertain. He expressed his sympathy, noting that from her perspective, her father's illness must feel as though it worsened overnight. Estella agreed, but she was grateful he was still with her. She then asked if he truly believed Count Diaz was responsible for her father's condition. River firmly denied it. Estella confessed she wanted to believe that too, and that Isaac was convinced his father wasn't the culprit. However, she had only heard Isaac's side and lacked detailed information. What struck her as most suspicious was that the entire investigation had concluded in just 4 days. She also found it hard to believe she herself would have closed the investigation. She asked River if he knew why she might have done so. He replied that it was difficult to say, as it had been a long time since he assumed his current role and lost his judicial power. Estella acknowledged the truth in that. River looked at Estella with concern. He then asked how things were between her and Isaac. Stella hesitated before admitting she wasn't sure. It wouldn't be right to say things were going well between them. River sighed, his expression turning serious as he told her something she might not want to hear. As her godfather, the moment she told him she couldn't remember anything past a certain age, he honestly felt it might be for the best. The past 7 years had been incredibly difficult for her. Between her father's deteriorating health and the troubles within her marriage, she had spent many days consumed by profound sorrow. He revealed that after she gave birth to the twins, not a day went by when her eyes weren't moist from crying. Both he and Lily had been deeply worried about her, even visiting her, but each time, her face bore a vacant, distant expression. As she recovered from childbirth, she began to go out more, but by then, both she and Isaac were already deeply wounded. River confessed that, in a way, he was glad she couldn't remember all that sorrow. Then, looking her straight in the eye, he asked the most important question: did she love Isaac? Without hesitation, Estella nodded. With a warm smile, River encouraged Estella to forget all the pain and live happily with Isaac. He reminded her that her father would want that too. However, Estella pointed out that she and Isaac were in the process of divorcing, and it seemed she had been the one to initiate it. River gently reassured her, saying that Isaac truly loved her, and all she needed to do was show him her sincerity. Estella pondered for a moment before agreeing, realizing River was right. Seeing her expression soften, River brightened, telling her that she was Estella, the light of the Meshans family, beloved by all. He emphasized that she should never forget she was their light, their cherished child. He then gave her a sincere embrace, urging her to find happiness no matter what. Deeply moved, Estella thanked her godfather, River. Still somewhat concerned, River asked if Estella intended to investigate what had happened again. In a gentle but firm tone, Estella replied that for now, she wanted to focus on reconciling with Isaac. She acknowledged that the incident had profoundly affected them all. River hesitated, then smiled in agreement. He expressed concern about her memory loss, especially now that she was older. Wiping away her tears, Estella confessed there was nothing she could do about it. Despite her mature appearance, she felt like the same childish Estella inside. River nodded understandingly, agreeing with her sentiment. Comforted by their conversation, Estella thanked him. She admitted that after seeing her father, she had been unsure of what to do next, but now felt much better. She promised to visit often. With a hopeful smile, River expressed his wish for her relationship with Isaac and the twins to improve. He sincerely prayed for their happiness. As Estella walked towards Isaac, she reflected on the past. She recalled something River had said when she was 7, after she had cried following a visit to a fortune teller. River had advised her not to burden the children with the weight of her father's illness, as it might be too much for them at their age. Estella now understood that Lucy and Lou would likely find it overwhelming to see their grandfather so ill. Though it saddened her, Estella knew she had to respect River's advice. She was grateful for her godfather's constant support and resolved to trust the renowned doctor treating her father. Approaching Isaac, she offered him a warm smile and apologized for keeping him waiting. The two walked towards the carriage. Before getting in, Estella glanced back at her father's palace, a wave of sadness washing over her as she gazed at the familiar yet now somber building. Finally, they settled into the carriage and departed, heading towards home. Isaac asked Estella what she and the king had discussed, and she replied that they had simply caught up, talked about judicial authority, and her decision to renounce the throne. Just as Isaac was about to offer comfort, he stopped himself, overwhelmed by his own conflicting emotions. He thought back on their past, remembering how Estella never cared for the children, always attending parties with other men while neglecting their home. He recalled how she would lock herself in her study, erupting in anger if he tried to enter. Isaac knew clearly that the only thing that had changed was her memory loss. Yet now she claimed to have feelings for him again. He questioned why he had let his guard down and embraced her when he was merely offering comfort, something anyone might have done. Noticing Isaac seemed lost in thought, Estella asked if he was all right. Isaac apologized for drifting off and asked what she had been saying. Estella shared her plan to request a reinvestigation by the Ministry of Justice's Magic Crime Division, explaining it might take time, but she wanted to get to the bottom of things. She assured Isaac she had no ulterior motives, only a desire to uncover the truth. Isaac acknowledged her godfather would support her, but mentioned he was busy preparing to take the children abroad, as they were his priority. Estella hesitated, questioning if he really needed to prepare so soon when they weren't even sure about divorcing yet. She pleaded with him not to avoid her, promising she would do her best. A few days prior, Estella was in the study, reflecting on how timely her godfather's message had been. She penned her reply and, upon finishing, requested another clean sheet of paper. She asked for the letter to be sent to her godfather, addressed to His Majesty. As she handed it over, a strange unease settled within her about revealing everything to him. But she reassured herself, remembering how he had always treated her like his own daughter. Suddenly, the children knocked and burst in, tugging at her. They excitedly demanded she play with them. Surprised, Estella asked where their nanny and father were. Lucy explained their father was talking to the butler, and they urged her to join their game. Estella smiled and agreed, saying she'd be right there. In the garden, holding Lou and Lucy's small hands, Estella contemplated how different her life felt now. She recalled her past crush on Isaac, imagining what having children with him would be like, and wondered what had caused such a drastic change in her. She questioned if it was really just that. While playing, Estella asked why they only played in the glass greenhouse. Lou explained that she had told them it was dangerous outside. Estella was stunned, wondering how dangerous it could possibly be. Lucy added they were only allowed to play there. Estella asked if they liked the glass greenhouse. They both nodded enthusiastically, mentioning the flowers, the dirt, and all the things they could play with. Then Lou excitedly suggested a picnic, and they dashed inside to get food, leaving Estella standing there with a sense of déjà vu. She called after them to be careful and not to run, worried they might fall. A moment later, Lou and Lucy returned with macarons made of mud, proudly presenting them to Estella. Impressed by their creation, Estella praised them, noting Lou seemed particularly happy today, smiling a lot. Then Lucy stared intently at Estella. Slightly puzzled, Estella asked if there was something on her face. Lucy shook her head and said she was pretty. She added that she liked playing with her. Lou echoed the sentiment, saying he liked it too. Estella recalled how cold she had been before losing her memory. Since then, she had always felt awkward around the children. Yet, despite everything, they loved her so much. Deeply moved, she promised them she would try to play with them more often in the future. The children excitedly kept asking if she really meant it, and Estella reassured them again and again, repeating her promise. Lucy beamed with happiness, then suddenly burst into tears, Lou trying to comfort her, telling her not to cry. Estella, deeply affected by Lucy's tears, asked her why she was crying. Watching her one-year-old daughter weep simply at the thought of her mother playing with her, Estella was struck by how much the children must have missed her to react this way. Guilt washed over her, and she apologized for how she had treated them in the past. She reflected on her past self with disdain, unable to comprehend how she could have been so cold, failing to recognize how precious and invaluable her loved ones were. She resolved to make amends, deciding against the divorce. She vowed to apologize to Isaac, change his mind, and give her children the love they deserved, to make up for the love she had failed to give them before. Estella hugged Lou and Lucy tightly, emotionally assuring them that from now on, they would go many places and play together. The children excitedly agreed. Then Estella asked them how they would feel if she and Isaac separated. Lucy quickly replied that she would hate it, and Lou also expressed reluctance. Estella confessed she had made a big mistake regarding Isaac and explained that he was very angry with her now and intended to leave. Lucy, with a child's understanding, stated that if someone makes a mistake, they should be punished, otherwise others would be angry. Estella reassured them that she would soon make amends with Isaac and asked for their help. Lucy replied, confused, saying her mother could do anything and she didn't understand why Estella needed help fixing things with Isaac. Holding Lou and Lucy close, Estella expressed deep remorse for her past mistakes and how she had hurt Isaac. She apologized to the children, promising to make things right. She asked if they thought she and Isaac should separate, and both children showed distress, expressing how much they didn't want that to happen. Estella admitted to making a huge mistake with Isaac, and though she knew he was furious with her, she vowed to make it up to him. She then asked if the children would help her convince Isaac to forgive her, feeling too weak to do it alone. A bright smile spread across Lucy's face, confidently declaring she was strong and would help Estella. Lou followed suit, somewhat shyly, but equally determined to support her. Overwhelmed with gratitude, Estella hugged them tightly, thanking them for their strength. She pleaded for their help to ensure she and Isaac could stay together, and both children eagerly agreed, excitedly announcing they would be little cupids to bring their parents back together. Moved by their enthusiasm, Estella's heart filled with hope, and they all rejoiced in the plan. Estella thought, with determination, Operation Cupid starts now. Meanwhile, a few hours earlier, in the twins' room, Lou and Lucy were playing with their toys. Lucy expressed dissatisfaction, wanting to throw the toys away, but Lou, who had a deep affection for a doll resembling Estella, protested. He admitted he missed their mother, while Lucy playfully teased him for being childish. However, they both revealed how much they loved their mother and that they no longer found her scary. Lou, with a happy smile, said it was wonderful that Mommy wasn't scary anymore, and Lucy agreed. The conversation shifted to their father, with Lou wondering if Dad felt the same way about Mom now. Lucy suggested they ask Isaac, and so the twins approached him with their question. Caught off guard by their inquiry, Isaac flinched, unsure how to respond. Isaac listened to the twins' innocent chatter, torn between their pure affection for Estella and the doubts brewing in his own heart. Lucy firmly insisted it was Lou who first mentioned how much they liked Mommy, and Lou nodded eagerly in agreement. Isaac tried to maintain composure, teasing them lightly, but inwardly, his thoughts were consumed by Estella's unusual behavior. He remembered her claims of traveling through time, her seemingly unquestioning demands. She had been telling tales of magic and fairy stories that no longer fit the world they lived in. But when he saw her before King Benjamin, gazing at the king's sickbed, struggling to hold back tears, something within him wavered. For a fleeting moment, Isaac wondered if there might be some truth to her story. Isaac wondered if Estella truly was from the past, and what had happened to the woman who once existed. He began to consider that perhaps things could be different this time, and wondered if he could truly trust her. Yet, despite this uncertainty, he still felt unable to fully place his faith in her. Isaac tried to shift his focus to the upcoming move, but knowing the mention of it would upset the children, especially Lou and Lucy, he decided to keep it a secret. Thinking back, Isaac recalled how Estella used to strictly demand the children stay indoors, even severely punishing a maid for allowing them outside, leading to the maid's disappearance. After that, the other maids began to fear Estella. Isaac then told the children he was going to call their grandmother, letting them continue their play. The scene shifts to a tense interrogation. An assistant reveals that the culprit was a key figure in a drug trafficking operation from 7 years ago, involving undetectable and odorless drugs that were difficult to trace even with silver. Although the criminal attempted to flee the country, he was swiftly captured and had resumed his illicit activities. They arrive at a prison where the criminal is bound to a chair, desperately denying any involvement, proclaiming his innocence, and begging for death. Frustrated by the lies, the assistant prepares to strike the criminal, but Isaac stops him, inquiring about the man's family instead. The criminal reacts with confusion to the question. Isaac is determined to extract answers from a man whose life hangs in the balance. The man desperately pleads for his family's safety, finally breaking down and revealing the truth. 7 years ago, someone approached him, offering to help smuggle drugs, but he was unaware of the full scope of the operation. The man was subsequently forced into hiding. However, He was drawn back into the dangerous world when he received a note threatening his family's safety, telling him to go to Meshans if he wanted them saved. Isaac, still perplexed, presses further, suspecting a deeper motive. The criminal confesses that the entire situation was a setup designed to ensure his capture, explaining that the person who orchestrated the smuggling also planned for him to be caught. He admits his arrest was part of a larger scheme. They wanted him apprehended by Isaac's team. Isaac, now more uncertain than ever, grapples with the weight of the situation. The criminal informs Isaac that King Bertrand sent him to deliver a message, warning that if Isaac continues his investigation, both his family and Bertrand's will be in danger. Bertrand cannot guarantee their safety if Isaac persists. The criminal implores Isaac to halt the investigation, even offering his own life to end the conflict. He apologizes for the death of Isaac's father and tries to convince Isaac that this investigation is endangering both their families. He begs Isaac to consider his children and stop delving deeper into the matter. Isaac, despite the pressure of guilt, remains stern, controlling his emotions and calling Bertrand the devil incarnate. The assistant then suggests informing the rest of their team, but Isaac refuses, stating they might not know about the organization and that Bertrand is targeting him alone. Isaac's assistant, Jillian, expresses concern for the safety of the young master, young lady, and the princess, urging Isaac to take action. Isaac assures her he will not allow his family to be harmed again, and orders the meeting postponed and the number of guards around the villa increased. When asked about the smuggler, Isaac decides to eliminate him, reasoning he is likely already being followed and wouldn't survive anyway. Isaac recalls the two shadows behind the king, one being the border governor and the other an unseen group of guards carrying out the king's most secret orders. He believes that even if the smuggler were released, he would still be killed. Isaac reflects on the investigation from 3 years prior, which led him to suspect Bertrand was the mastermind. But he couldn't share this suspicion with Estella. Isaac contemplates the current situation, noting that despite his lack of affection for Estella, he feels a need to look out for her, almost like a father, due to the support she offered in the past. His priority is protecting Lou and Lucy, yet Estella seems to constantly try to insert herself into their lives, leaving him confused about her intentions. Meanwhile, late at night, Estella finds herself conflicted in their room. While grateful they agreed to sleep in the same chamber, she can't help but feel uneasy about Isaac's behavior. She notices him lying with his chest exposed and blushes. In the awkward way he looked at her, she asked him why he was staring, but Isaac turned the question back on her, clearly sensing her discomfort. Estella shyly explained that Isaac's exposed chest and the way he was lying made it difficult not to notice. Isaac contemplated whether he should bring up Bertrand. Although he hadn't intended to reveal the truth about him, he considered that his kindness towards Estella could also serve as a subtle form of revenge. Isaac hoped Estella would eventually realize the truth on her own and feel some regret for her actions. As he gazed at her, Estella felt uneasy, wondering why Isaac was looking at her that way. To shift the focus, Isaac casually asked her what kind of person King Bertrand was. Caught off guard, Estella replied that Bertrand had always been a good man, treating her like his own daughter since she was young. She explained that even now, he was kind to her, and Lily treated her like a real sister. Estella recounted a life-threatening accident where she nearly died. A passing carriage was caught in a landslide and fell to the bottom of a cliff. The situation was perilous. Anyone attempting to rescue her would be in danger. Her carriage was tilted, and the coachman couldn't reach her. It was then that her godfather, Bertrand, cleared the debris and rocks covering the carriage, dug through the mud, and managed to pull her out, covered in blood. He immediately held her, comforting her with soothing words. He saved her life, but injured his leg in the process, leaving him with a permanent limp. Estella explained that if Bertrand hadn't saved her, she would either be dead or have a limp herself. Even while receiving treatment for his leg, Bertrand was only concerned about her well-being. In a vulnerable moment, Isaac asked Estella how she would feel if she discovered Bertrand had betrayed her. Estella replied that it would hurt her deeply, an answer Isaac interpreted as being directed at him. He moved closer to her, gently cupping her face, almost leaning in for a kiss, but then pulled back, telling her not to push herself too hard. Confused by his words, Estella questioned him, but Isaac simply dismissed it as a general statement and left the room. Outside in the garden, Isaac reflected on the situation, feeling conflicted. Every time he saw Estella, his plans seemed to unravel. He had hoped she would come to regret her loyalty to Bertrand, whom he saw as an enemy to both her father and her husband. But now, seeing Estella become so bright and determined unsettled Isaac. He realized that despite his intentions to push her away, she kept trying to follow him, leaving him feeling conflicted and unsure of his next move. Resolutely, Estella called out to Isaac as he walked away, grabbing his hand and expressing her frustration. She scolded him for pouring cold water on her efforts and declared she wouldn't give up easily. She revealed she had loved him for 6 years, enduring the pain of unrequited love. Estella boasted of her worth, mentioning the many men who had pursued her, all of whom she rejected in her pursuit of Isaac. She emphasized how difficult it was to harbor such feelings for so long and warned him, with unwavering resolve, not to underestimate her ability to cling to him, comparing herself to a leech. Estella confronted Isaac with fierce determination, calling herself a leech and boldly declaring her intentions. She reminded him that she had loved him for 6 years despite his engagement to someone else, while he remained oblivious to her feelings. Her voice rising, she cried out Isaac's name, refusing to be discouraged any longer. She insisted she didn't care if everyone in the house heard her declaration. Estella made it clear that no matter how Isaac pushed her away, she would do everything in her power to stay by his side. With unwavering conviction, she told Isaac that whether he liked it or not, she would keep trying to be near him. Filled with determination, Estella declared she would no longer shrink back or feel ashamed. She acknowledged her past mistakes and Isaac's hatred for her, but insisted it wasn't fair. Because she hated herself too, she questioned why things had turned out this way. She reminded him that he had promised to give her a chance, yet he had already given up before she even had the opportunity to try. She pleaded with him not to speak like that again, as she refused to give up. She expressed how, after 6 years of unrequited love, just being here felt like a miracle, a gift from God. When Isaac repeated her words in disbelief, she told him not to underestimate the love of a 19-year-old girl. She knew he wanted to discourage her, but she challenged him to watch her prove herself. She confidently promised that soon he and the children would be the ones clinging to her. With that, Estella stormed out, leaving Isaac slumped in his seat. He sighed, realizing her tone sounded exactly as it used to, and admitted to himself that whenever she acted this way, he never knew how to respond. The next morning, Estella woke with a yawn, finding Isaac already gone. She wondered if he had left very early. Outside, she heard the children excitedly calling for their father, guessing he was playing with them. Curious, she glanced out the window. To her shock, she saw herself standing beside Isaac. Confused, she thought it must be a dream, because Isaac would never smile at her so sweetly. Suddenly, an older version of herself appeared beside her, commenting on how wonderful it was to see them happy. Realizing who she was talking to, the younger Estella hesitated before asking if she was her 26-year-old self. The older Estella confirmed it, then questioned why she had been brought here, suggesting the younger Estella must have traveled back in time. Frustrated, the younger Estella demanded answers, crying out for her older self to explain why she was being shown the future and what was happening. However, the older Estella urged her to think and remember, hinting at something deeper. When a younger Estella demanded a direct explanation, the older one confessed she had once regretted not figuring things out herself. She then warned her not to forget that 2 versions of the same person could not exist in the same world. The bewildered younger Estella pressed for more details, but the older Estella simply repeated that they were the same person and that it wasn't just about time. There was something more profound involved. The younger Estella suddenly felt a strange sensation and demanded to know what was happening. The older Estella calmly told her these were things she needed to remember. The frustrated younger Estella asked how she could possibly know what happened to her future self, given that she was from the past. In response, the older Estella pushed her away, telling her to go find out more about herself on her own. As the younger Estella fell, she found herself submerged in a strange, watery space. The sensation jolted her awake, gasping for air. Nana, who had been watching over her, sighed in relief, exclaiming that she was finally awake. Estella, still groggy, responded, jokingly asking if she needed to be woken up at her age. Nana informed her that Lord Isaac and the children were already eating, and if she hurried and got dressed, she could still join them. However, noticing Estella's troubled expression, she asked if she was unwell, pointing out she was covered in a cold sweat. Estella forced a smile, reassuring her it was just a particularly vivid dream. Nana handed her some water, which Estella gratefully drank. Before asking if she believed in dreams, Nana mentioned that some people consider them prophetic. Nana agreed, acknowledging that while some dismiss dreams as meaningless, others believe they hold deep significance. Personally, she felt there were good reasons to take dreams seriously. Curious, Estella asked why. Nana explained it was because of the dreams the late queen, Estella's mother, had while pregnant with her. Surprised, Estella pressed for more details. Nana revealed that the queen had the same dream repeatedly during that time. However, they weren't pleasant dreams, and her mother had disliked them intensely. Estella inquired about the nature of her mother's dreams. Nana explained that the late queen often spoke as if she knew she would die young, believing that once Estella was born, she would pass away. Yet, she never seemed afraid of this fate. Intrigued, Estella asked if Nana knew the specifics of those dreams. Nana disclosed that in the dream, the queen saw a woman who looked exactly like her. This woman told her she would die when the princess was born, but reassured her not to be afraid or sad. Accepting this fate, the queen instructed everyone that if a choice had to be made between her and the child must always be chosen. Estella was stunned, realizing this was the first time she had heard this. Noticing her reaction, Nana seemed slightly puzzled, reminding her she had told this story before. Still, she supposed Estella might not remember, adding that the last time they discussed dreams, it was also Estella who had brought up the topic first. Estella feigned casual agreement. Accepting the cloth, Nana offered to wash her face before heading off for breakfast. Once ready, Estella went to the dining room for breakfast. There, Lou and Lucy greeted her cheerfully, waving excitedly. Isaac quickly reprimanded Lucy for waving her cutlery, warning her she might hurt someone. Lucy pouted but reluctantly agreed to stop. Meanwhile, Estella felt uneasy, whether it was due to her dream or something else. She had lost her appetite. Noticing her expression, Lucy grew concerned and asked if she was feeling unwell. Estella smiled reassuringly, thanking her for her concern, but assuring her she wasn't sick. Lou and Lucy, captivated by their mother's bright face, began whispering amongst themselves. Their hushed conversation puzzled both Estella and Isaac. Suddenly, Lucy rushed over to Estella. Caught off guard, Estella asked what was wrong. Lucy leaned in close and whispered a question. Was it time for their plan? Did she and Lou need to play Cupid? Estella whispered back, telling her it wasn't time yet, but to be ready to help when she gave the signal. Lucy giggled excitedly and agreed. With that settled, Estella suggested they finish their breakfast, and the children eagerly complied. As Estella stood alone later, she reflected on the breakfast, which had gone smoothly thanks to the children. Still, the dream lingered, unsettling her. It reminded her of her mother's dreams. Glancing around, she noted the office looked ordinary, filled with documents like servant payrolls, records from Margrave, and even details about her inheritance. Her future self was meticulous, yet nothing seemed out of the ordinary. She wondered what her older self meant by wanting to know more about her. Why couldn't she just explain everything? Estella regretted not grabbing her by the hair when she had the chance. Thinking back, she realized how different her 26-year-old self was. There was an elegance and strength in her demeanor, but most striking was the hint of weariness in her eyes. While she had felt envious looking through the window at that happy scene, her future self had appeared serene. There was still so much she didn't understand. Just then, Isaac arrived, knocking on the door. He remarked it was the first time he'd seen her study door open. As Isaac watched Estella enter the dining room with a displeased expression, his heart sank. It felt as though everything had reverted to how it once was, and he braced himself to tread carefully, as if walking on thin ice again. Throughout the meal, however, she remained gentle with the children, though she seemed lost in thought. After breakfast, she retreated to her study, muttering something under her breath. She was so deep in contemplation that he worried she might furrow wrinkles into her brow. Just then, Lucy called out excitedly for Estella. Startled, Isaac hushed the children, whispering to them. He asked if they had noticed their mother didn't seem very happy. Lou looked up at Isaac with concern, asking if Mama was ill. Isaac reassured them, saying Estella had already mentioned that she was fine, but Lou, still puzzled, asked why she looked unhappy then. Isaac explained that she was merely thinking deeply, and that was simply the expression she wore when lost in thought. To keep them from disturbing her, he proposed a game. Whoever spoke loudly would lose. Lou and Lucy, thrilled by the challenge, exchanged glances and nodded eagerly in agreement. As the game began, an unusual quiet descended upon the room. Isaac noted how noisy the children had been just moments before. But now, Estella seemed oblivious to the sudden silence. She who was normally sensitive to the slightest disturbance. Lost in her own world, unaware of Isaac's scrutiny, Estella murmured to herself that she really should have grabbed the woman by the hair the moment she saw her. But the thought hadn't occurred to her then. Isaac watched Estella silently, noting her grave expression, wondering who she was referring to when she mentioned grabbing someone's hair. Whatever it was, it seemed to be weighing heavily upon her. He and the children simply watched her, concerned but unsure what to say. Despite her troubled look, Isaac couldn't help but admire her contemplative state, seemingly lost in a distant world, a quality he had always cherished in her. Deciding to break the silence, he knocked on the study door. The knock pulled Estella from her thoughts, and her face brightened upon seeing him. Isaac remarked that this was the first time he had seen her study door open. He had always been curious about what she kept hidden inside, but to his surprise, the room appeared remarkably ordinary. Estella, slightly flustered, quickly asked if he needed something, pointing out that it was unusual for him to seek her out proactively. Lucy bounced excitedly, calling out to Estella that they had come to fetch her. Estella didn't quite catch Lucy's words at first, but then she clapped her hands in astonishment, remarking that the two children could actually manage to be quiet sometimes. Lucy eagerly urged Estella to come play with them, while Lou suggested playing house or with dolls in the glass house. Estella agreed, commenting that she should have known Isaac wouldn't have come looking for her for any particular reason anyway. Lou and Lucy rushed forward to embrace Estella, then took her hands, leading her towards the glass house. Watching them go, Isaac felt a sudden pang of isolation. Just then, Lucy called for him to join them, and he followed along. He teased them about forming their own secret club. As they reached the glass house, Lucy and Lou huddled close to Estella, whispering something conspiratorially to her. Isaac felt excluded from their conversation, a touch frustrated. He sighed, suggesting they could play by themselves, if they preferred. Lucy suddenly looked flustered and quickly suggested playing house instead, an idea Lou immediately seconded as brilliant. The three of them, Lucy, Lou, and Estella, looked nervous, breaking into a sweat. Then, as if hastily changing tactics, Lucy and Lou dashed off excitedly, proposing they play shop instead. Lucy turned back to Estella and Isaac, firmly instructing them to stay right where they were and not go anywhere. As the two children ran off, they whispered excitedly to each other, congratulating themselves on a job well done. They continued murmuring and giggling, proud of their teamwork. The realization dawned on Estella, leaving her shocked and mortified. She couldn't believe the twins had actually abandoned her alone with Isaac. She turned to him with a hesitant smile, acutely aware of the sudden tension hanging in the air between them. To break the lingering awkwardness, she brought up Lucy's sudden leap earlier, clarifying that she hadn't instructed the child to do so. Isaac reassured her that he knew, adding that Lucy had always been a quick study. Then, his gaze sharpened slightly as he observed her. "You don't look well," he noted gently. "Did you not sleep properly?" He commented that he hoped she had rested well, especially since she had kicked off all her blankets during the night. Estella froze, stunned, wondering how on earth he could possibly know that. She quickly tried to deflect, insisting, "I slept perfectly fine. I can usually sleep anywhere." Isaac seemed relieved to hear it, mentioning that she used to suffer terribly from insomnia. Estella looked at him, surprised. "I really had insomnia." Isaac confirmed it, explaining that ever since she had given birth to the twins, she had tried everything to combat it, even resorting to burning incense. But nothing had worked. This left Estella feeling bewildered because Nana had always told her that, even as a baby, she never cried and always slept soundly. Isaac expressed his understanding of her past struggle, acknowledging how utterly exhausting it must have been for her. not only coping with sleepless nights, but also managing the children's constant clamor, the stress of her father's illness, and the palpable tension in their own relationship. He confessed, his voice low, "I always thought you might hate being here. Perhaps even wish someone else was by your side." Estella fell into thought, reminding herself firmly that she wasn't that person. Even the version of herself she'd seen in her dream hadn't looked at Isaac with hatred in her eyes. She met his gaze steadily and told him, "Don't think like that anymore." Isaac looked taken aback. "What do you mean?" he asked. Estella insisted, "You're wrong. You don't truly understand, and you just gave up," she accused him, her voice gaining a slight edge. "You ran away from your own pain instead of facing it." Before he could form a response, the children suddenly burst in, bubbling with excitement, presenting them with their concoction of pretend tea made from mud. Estella clapped her hands together delightedly, praising them. "Oh, wonderful job. Lucy, playing her part perfectly," inquired, "Is the tea to your liking, Mother?" Estella smiled, joining their game wholeheartedly. She pretended to take a delicate sip. It's delicious." Watching them, Lucy giggled, remarking, "You two look so cute together. Have fun." Before scampering off with Lou, Estella watched them go, surprised. Where did the children learn to speak so politely? She mused aloud. "I thought they'd never even left the palace grounds." Isaac reminded her gently, "You took them out once, remember? To that restaurant." They picked up the way the waitress spoke and have been imitating her ever since. Considering this, Estella's eyes lit up. "We should go out together sometime," she suggested. "Take the children downtown, perhaps even catch a show at the theater." She hadn't even finished her sentence when Isaac spoke her name, causing her to flinch almost imperceptibly. When she looked at him questioningly, he asked softly, "Do you pity the children?" Estella hesitated for a moment before clarifying, "It's not pity, more like a sense of sadness." Isaac reassured her quickly, "You don't need to feel guilty. While it's true the children might not have had enough time with either their mother or me, they have never, ever lacked for love." He stated with conviction, "The three of us have managed just fine so far, and will continue to be fine in the future." A nervous tremor ran through Estella, and her voice shook slightly as she challenged him. "Why do you talk as if I won't be a part of that future, Isaac?" It felt as though he was shutting her out again, and the familiar ache returned. Isaac quickly assured her, "That wasn't my intention. I didn't mean to hurt you or make you sad." Frustrated, she pressed, "Then what did you mean?" Isaac hesitated, the conflict visible on his face, before finally explaining his fear. He acknowledged, "You've been trying so hard lately to get closer to the children, to reconcile with me. But what if one day the Estella from before comes back? What if you're suddenly sent back to your own time?" He looked at her, his gaze intense. "The Estella standing before me now. She's open and warm and unafraid to show the children her love. But the Estella I remember," his voice dropped, "was different, sharp, distant, indifferent to almost everything. Sometimes, when she looked at me, at the children, it was as if she didn't even recognize us. If, one day, this happiness we have now shatters, when everything reverts to how it used to be, I won't be the one who's hurt the most." Isaac admitted that if their mother reverted to the cold, unfeeling woman she once was, he least wanted the children to be hurt. If that were to happen, he could care for them alone. Estella froze, bewildered, questioning why her future self would act that way. Perhaps she had believed the man who loved her could never truly be hurt by her. But Isaac was the type to hide his own pain to protect his children. Overwhelmed, Estella began to cry. She struggled for words, managing only apologies. She didn't know why she had come to the future, and though she expressed her love for him, it seemed only to cause him pain. As she tried to speak, Isaac silently reflected that the Estella he once knew would only have been annoyed by him. Yet here she was, crying because of him. He knew he was being petty, taking his frustrations out on her when she didn't even understand what was happening. But this wasn't the Estella who refused to listen. This was the Estella who was willing to hear him out. Lou and Lucy were playing happily, building castles out of mud. Lucy cheered that they were doing a great job, excitedly imagining their parents were also getting along well. Lou agreed, sharing her enthusiasm as she turned towards Estella and Isaac. Suddenly, Lucy stopped, her face clouding with confusion. She noticed Estella crying, and both she and Lou immediately rushed over. Lou looked distressed, pleading with Estella not to cry, while Lucy turned angrily towards Isaac. Convinced he was the cause, she started hitting him with her small hands, scolding him for making her mother cry. She was furious because they had specifically left their parents alone, hoping something good would happen. but now felt betrayed. Meanwhile, Lou tried to comfort Estella, repeatedly begging her to stop crying. During dinner, Lou and Lucy, exhausted from their day of play, had fallen asleep. Estella watched them fondly, thinking about how much energy they had expended, especially after the earlier commotion and her efforts to reconcile with Isaac. A flashback flickered through her mind. Lucy had cheerfully insisted that since she had made up with Isaac, Estella must do the same. She had excitedly urged her mother to kiss Isaac and make things better, much to Isaac's embarrassment. Back in the present, Estella chuckled softly at the memory. Nana, noticing the sleeping twins, urged Estella and Isaac to take them to bed. As they carefully lifted the children, Estella assured Nana they would handle it and told her to rest. Watching them, Nana gasped, murmuring in disbelief that she hadn't seen them like this in a very long time. Estella and Isaac gently placed Lucy and Lou into their beds. Once settled, Lucy sleepily asked Estella to pat her head, saying she used to do it all the time. Surprised by the sudden request, Estella smiled nonetheless and began gently patting Lucy's head, wishing her sweet dreams. Watching them, Isaac silently slipped out of the room. Estella continued patting Lucy, pondering her words. Had she really done this before? But Isaac insisted her future self had shown no interest in the children. Despite her confusion, she noticed Lucy had fallen asleep. Leaving the room, Estella saw Isaac standing outside. She hesitated before speaking, surprised he hadn't returned to their room yet. Isaac remained silent, and Estella sensed he might have something to say, something he couldn't discuss in front of the children. Estella carefully asked if there was something he wanted to talk about. She clicked her tongue, feeling a little uneasy, admitting she hadn't expected things with the children to turn out that way. Isaac reassured Estella he wasn't waiting to blame her. When she asked why he was waiting, he simply told her to follow him. Estella was surprised, wondering if he had really just waited for her so they could walk together. As they walked, she tentatively asked him why he had never left her. Isaac stopped in his tracks. Estella continued her confession, acknowledging she knew how her future self had treated him, neglecting their family, possibly having an affair, and hurting him relentlessly. Yet, despite all that, it was her future self who had initiated the divorce. Why hadn't he left then? Was it because she was the mother of his children, and he wanted them raised by their birth mother, or was there another reason? Isaac revealed that the reason he never left wasn't because of the children, but because of something Estella had said to him in the past, words he couldn't let go of. In a flashback, Estella had once asked him if he would always trust her, always wait for her, because she loved him so much. Isaac had believed those words and held on to them, convinced she would return to him someday. Estella was stunned, wondering what on earth she could have said to affect him so deeply to bind him to this estate. Isaac went on to explain that while her words weren't particularly special, they had meant everything to him. However, he now stated that it didn't matter anymore. Those words no longer held the same weight. Isaac turned, ready to leave, suggesting they head back. He inwardly cursed himself for revealing so much. Just then, Estella grabbed his hand, stopping him. Surprised, he asked what she was doing. Estella hesitated, but insisted he wait a moment. She admitted she wasn't good with words, having grown up in a world where she got anything she wanted just by asking. Because of this, she always meant what she said. She then questioned the drastic shift in her own feelings. She had loved him so much that she made those promises, having harbored a crush on him for 6 years. Yet within a mere 4 years, she had supposedly changed completely. She found it strange, unable to comprehend how such a transformation could have occurred. Isaac tried to pull his hand away from Estella's grasp, but she held on tightly. She insisted she wouldn't let go, and proposed a deal. If it turned out her future self had simply fallen out of love, she would apologize and leave him alone. However, if there was another reason behind her actions, she asked for a chance. Isaac, taken aback, asked what she meant. Estella explained she would investigate everything her future self was involved in, conceding that if it truly was just a change of heart, then it was her fault. Isaac challenged her, asking if that would be enough, implying that even a deeper reason might not change anything. Estella maintained that she couldn't believe she would hurt him and the children so profoundly over something trivial. At this, Isaac harshly pulled his hand free, telling her that she had, in fact, done exactly that. Frustrated, he asked how long she intended to make him feel like a fool. He warned her that actions have consequences, and she couldn't just stir things up expecting no repercussions. He refused to be someone she could play with and discard at will. Estella tried to explain, but Isaac cut her off, his expression stern. He asked if she understood how deeply her actions had wounded him. Whether it was a change of heart or some other reason, he insisted it no longer mattered to him. Nevertheless, he reluctantly agreed to let her investigate and listen to her declarations of love, acknowledging that the 19-year-old Estella wasn't at fault for what had happened. In return, he demanded she stop provoking him, making it clear he hoped this would all turn out to be just a misunderstanding. He warned her not to try and get closer to him again, as it would only lead to more pain. Estella defiantly declared she would do as she pleased, then stormed into her room, slamming the door shut. As Isaac walked away, she abruptly opened the door and shouted after him, warning him not to sleep in another room, as she wouldn't let him escape the situation. Isaac retorted that he had never tried to run away. Estella argued back in frustration that his actions suggested otherwise. She insisted that if she were him, she would definitely find out if it was truly just a change of heart. She would demand alimony, housing expenses, drain every last penny, leaving her past self with nothing. She confronted him, asking why he simply endured it all in silence, questioning if he didn't despise her for everything she had done. Isaac, frustrated, cried out that he didn't hate her. When Estella pressed him for the reason, he blurted out that it was because he loved her. An awkward silence followed. He then sighed, correcting himself, saying it was that he had loved her. Now it was all over. He explained he couldn't bear to see the woman he once loved ruined, but she shouldn't get any strange ideas because of his words. Estella, caught off guard, hastily denied having any such thoughts. Isaac then decided to sleep in another room, and Estella reluctantly agreed. As she walked into her own room, she thought to herself that it felt like his words were directed at her. A maid noticed Isaac's absence and asked if he wasn't coming. Estella admitted with frustration that she didn't know how things had ended up this way. The maid expressed sympathetically that everyone in the manor was eagerly hoping for her and Isaac to reconcile. Estella softly agreed, realizing she hoped for it too. Estella asked her maid, Miela, if she had been terrible to Isaac in the past, since Miela had known her since she first developed feelings for him. Miela hesitated, then confessed there were indeed times that surprised her, but she assumed there were circumstances she wasn't aware of. She then revealed something unexpected. Sometimes Estella would sneak into the children's room at night after they were asleep, watch over them, gently pat their heads, showing a hidden affection she never displayed openly. Hearing this, Estella realized Lucy's words had been true. Miela remained puzzled, wondering why someone who clearly loved her children would go to such lengths to pretend otherwise. Estella felt there must be more to the story, and asked Miela who she had been closest to in the past. Miela initially couldn't recall anyone specific, but then mentioned Madame de Lauren of the Rodonia Salon. Estella was shocked to learn that she herself had arranged the sale and transfer of the salon to Madame de Lauren, a foreigner. Miela added that the decision had caused quite a stir, as Estella had handed over one of Meshen's most prestigious salons without any objection. Estella found it strange. If Madame de Lauren had been a man, there surely would have been rumors of an affair, but that wasn't the case. She questioned why she would entrust the salon to her when they weren't particularly close. Recalling that Madame de Lauren knew about the men and their gifts, Estella began to suspect she might have acted as an intermediary. She also remembered how confused the woman looked recently when Estella told her to stop interfering, which strengthened her suspicion. Frustrated with herself, Estella tapped her own head, startling Miela, who quickly asked if she was all right. Estella scolded herself for not observing more carefully, recalling the saying about searching high and low only to find what you seek right under your nose. She then instructed Miela to send an invitation to Madame de Lauren the next day, convinced the woman knew something important. Miela, surprised by the sudden request, hesitated but agreed. Estella then asked if there was anything else she had kept secret in the past. Miela recalled that Estella never allowed anyone into the study, insisting on cleaning it herself. Estella acknowledged this and instructed Miela to continue keeping these matters confidential, to which Miela agreed. Meanwhile, Isaac entered his room, looking weary and dejected. As he glanced at the letters, exhaustion weighed heavily upon him. He muttered to himself that he didn't love Estella and he shouldn't. Late that night, Estella had the same dream again, where she encountered her future self, the 26-year-old Estella. The younger Estella demanded answers in frustration, but the older Estella, calmly reading a book, insisted she must figure everything out on her own. Provoked, the younger Estella demanded why she had to do this, only for her older counterpart to reply cryptically that seeking the version of herself described by others would not lead her to her true self. Hearing herself called a silly girl, the younger Estella retorted irritably, while the older Estella reflected on how immature she herself had once been. The younger Estella defiantly criticized her older self for hurting Isaac and the children with harsh words, accusing her of failing and believing that was why she had been summoned here. She snatched the book from the older Estella's hands, yelling at her to stop playing dumb. The older Estella glared back at her, but then remarked on how honest and immature she was, noting these traits could sometimes be unexpected weapons. The bewildered younger Estella demanded an explanation, but her elder merely urged her to remember, as it was the only way to save everyone. When pressed for more details, the older Estella said cryptically she couldn't say more because all of this. Estella jolted awake, her distressed state worrying Nana greatly, who immediately offered to fetch a doctor. However, Estella insisted she was fine. Nana asked if she was all right, and Estella replied that she remembered nothing. When asked what she had forgotten, Estella explained someone had spoken to her in a dream, but she couldn't recall what was said. Hearing it was just a dream, Nana relaxed and urged Estella to get ready. The scene shifted to the greenhouse, where Estella and Isaac were having tea while the children played nearby. Isaac noticed Estella's attire and remarked that she was wearing the dress reserved for receiving guests. She confirmed this, explaining she had invited the lady from the Rhodonia salon. At the mention of the lady, Isaac turned away. Estella sensed the tension, breaking into a slight sweat, and explained she'd heard they were close in the past, so she hoped the lady could offer some insight into what she had been involved in. Isaac acknowledged her reasoning, but still seemed indifferent. Just then, Miela arrived to inform Estella that Madame de Lauren had arrived. Deeming the timing perfect, Estella excused herself, suggesting they continue their tea later. As Estella walked away, Lucy suddenly tugged at her, asking if she was going to meet someone. Estella gently and lovingly caressed Lucy's face before leaving. Lucy and Lou then ran to Isaac's side, Lucy asking curiously why Estella hadn't told them where she was going. Isaac reassured her that Estella was just meeting a friend. An excited Lucy and Lou happily wished for her quick return so they could continue playing together. Meanwhile, Estella came face to face with Madame de Lorraine, who was Ren. Without hesitation, she directly asked Ren who she truly was. Ren, taken aback, asked for clarification. Estella reminded her that as the proprietor of the Rhodonia salon, she must surely have heard about her memory loss. Ren recalled the whispers surrounding Estella. People gossiped that the princess had lost her memories, that she seemed different than before, and some thought she'd had a serious accident and was still recovering. Others speculated her break with Isaac had deeply affected her. Ren inwardly conceded there was some truth to the rumors of Estella's amnesia. Though she had assumed the princess would have had contingency plans, it now seemed that wasn't the case. Estella confirmed she had indeed lost her memories, observing that Ren didn't seem surprised. Unflustered, Ren calmly asked how she could assist Estella today. Estella explained she believed Ren knew her past self well, questioning the nature of their relationship. She specifically mentioned she'd heard she had bought the Rhodonia salon and then handed it over to Ren. Ren confirmed this was true. When Estella pressed for the reason, Ren hesitated and declined to answer. When Estella demanded to know why, Ren revealed it was Estella's own command. She had made Ren swear an oath never to reveal the truth to her under any circumstances. Estella had insisted she must uncover the truth herself. Realizing the implications of her past actions, Estella thought it was as if she had anticipated this very situation. Ren rose, politely apologizing for not being able to offer more information. She mentally decided that certain plans should be put on hold for now, as they wouldn't be immediately useful. Before Ren left, Estella asked one last question. What kind of person had she been in Ren's eyes in the past? Ren replied that Estella was someone worthy of respect. Although she couldn't reveal everything, she offered her help should Estella recall more memories. Estella expressed regret that Ren had come all this way only to leave so soon. She arranged for the butler to escort Ren and wished her a safe journey back. Ren smiled, assuring Estella it was quite all right and expressing her pleasure at seeing her again after so long. She invited Estella to visit Rhodonia. She suggested that familiar surroundings might help Estella recover her memories. Ren handed Estella an invitation, mentioning that this year's couple's banquet would be held in Rhodonia. She pointed out that other noble ladies who were once close to Estella would also be attending. Since mending her relationship with Isaac was a priority, Ren encouraged her to come. After Ren departed, Estella grew frustrated, convinced Ren knew something but refused to disclose it. She recalled the dream, unable to understand why no one would simply tell her the truth, finding the situation increasingly infuriating. As Ren rode away from the manor in her carriage, she sighed. A man accompanying her inquired about Estella, wondering if things hadn't gone well. Ren confirmed that, as expected, the situation was difficult. The man expressed mild surprise, but Ren reassured him that at least Estella hadn't regressed further. She instructed him to halt their plans for the time being and inform the others. The man agreed, but noted they needed to set a timeline for the sake of the team members' morale. Ren expressed hope that Estella would recover her memories soon or find another way to uncover the truth. The man asked if she was nervous. To this, Ren admitted that despite anticipating this outcome and preparing for it, Estella's complete lack of awareness still made her anxious. When the man suggested simply telling Estella everything, Ren vehemently rejected the idea, warning she would cut out his tongue if he dared say anything to the princess. She added that his mere presence as the butler already unsettled her. The man protested, telling Ren there was no need for such threats. He acknowledged that revealing anything was against the rules. He then mentioned Estella was clinging to her last hope and worried that if she failed again, she would break completely. His anxiety intensified, considering the potential consequences. Ren changed the subject, asking how Estella and her husband were getting along. The man shook his head in frustration, saying they were both too stubborn and frustrating to manage well. He added that if they at least realized Bertrand was their common enemy, their relationship wouldn't be so strained. The man then recalled Estella's words about not interfering, insisting they had to follow the rules for her own good. He cried out in frustration about how absurd those rules were, questioning if even God adhered to them. Annoyed, Ren began hitting him with her fan, scoffing at his remark about God. She told him not to get arrogant just because of foolish humans and sternly reminded him that their loyalty belonged to Princess Estella. They existed to serve her. Estella returned to the greenhouse, where Isaac was playing with the children. He asked if she was back already. She replied there wasn't much to discuss. Isaac noted that Madame de Lorraine knew a lot about her, but Estella said she was only told to figure things out herself. She mentioned frustratingly how the dream and the Madame's words kept pushing her towards the same answer without giving her direct information. Isaac recalled the nurse mentioning Estella didn't look well. He recalled the time she was late for breakfast, sweating in her sleep, but he had merely dismissed it as her being sensitive to the heat back then. A frown creased his brow as the thought occurred to him. Meanwhile, Lucy noticed the invitation and began reading it aloud. Estella clapped, praising Lucy for reading so well. Lou, eager to try, also attempted to read it, struggling with some words but managing nonetheless. Estella encouraged him, telling him he was doing a great job. Lucy turned to Isaac, asking if he could read too, and handed him the invitation. Isaac read through it, then looked at Estella, making her slightly nervous. He then feigned ignorance, claiming he had absolutely no idea what it meant. Lucy, shocked, exclaimed that even she and Lou could understand it. Lou enthusiastically agreed, insisting they both understood it perfectly. Isaac, still pretending not to comprehend the invitation's contents, suggested Estella return it to her mother. Estella realized he wouldn't agree immediately, guessing that Isaac, the child prodigy who had once deciphered ancient scriptures, must be feigning illiteracy. She smirked, finding the act a bit dramatic. Calling Lucy over, she whispered something in her ear. Lucy giggled. Isaac watched from a distance, feeling a pang of jealousy, wondering what mischief they were up to. Estella stood up and changed her seat. Lucy followed her, still giggling. A curious Lou rushed over to Estella, tugging at her, wanting to know what was going on. Estella whispered in Lou's ear as well, and he too began to giggle. Isaac sighed, wondering what they were discussing and why Lou, who usually cried easily, was so cheerful. An excited Lucy and Lou dashed over to Isaac, eager to share why they had been laughing. Lucy held out a bouquet of flowers to Isaac, saying Estella sent them. Isaac, surprised, glanced towards Estella and saw her wink at him. He wondered if she was inviting him to the event. Estella muttered to herself that she would keep doing this until he relented. Isaac remained unmoved, tossing the flowers onto the table and turning away. He thought to himself that he wouldn't give in so easily. Estella sighed, realizing Isaac wouldn't agree in the first round, but she was determined to make him yield eventually. Then she grabbed Isaac's hand and asked why they were sleeping in separate rooms again, reminding him of his promise that they would share a room and never be apart. Isaac pulled his hand away from Estella's grasp, stating that sleeping together was awkward and uncomfortable. He explained that she lay stiffly beside him, making it feel like sleeping next to a log. Estella, shocked, asked if she was really like a log. Isaac added that she also hogged the blanket, leaving him cold. Estella, resolute, insisted she would prepare 2 blankets and wouldn't be like a log anymore. She declared confidently that she would seduce him. Isaac scoffed dismissively, ignoring her attempt. Estella then explained it was preparation for the couple's banquet, suggesting it would be best to show the nobles they were getting along well. Isaac feigned ignorance, but Estella pressed on, emphasizing that the nobles, despite their polished exteriors, married for convenience and had affairs, making them susceptible to rumors. She warned that if she attended the banquet without Isaac, gossip would spread. She clenched her fists, feeling the pressure. Isaac, irritated, commented that Estella had clearly abandoned someone, adding it was long overdue. He implied that regardless of the rumors spread about them, people would either mock the man as a sycophant or blame him for the consequences based on their actions. Estella warned worriedly that the gossip would be worse if he didn't show up at all. She tried to take Isaac's hand, but he slapped it away, saying he was used to it. He walked away, leaving Estella feeling tense and uneasy. Isaac entered his own room. He was stunned to see Estella dressed provocatively, seemingly trying to seduce him with a flirtatious expression. Confused, Isaac asked if this was related to the banquet. Disappointed by his reaction, Estella thought to herself that things were clearly heading in a certain direction, yet Isaac was dismissive, implying he didn't see it that way at all. Stealing her resolve, Estella decided it was time to employ the alluring poses she had learned from her nanny's books. Giving it her all, she tried to impress and entice Isaac with her expressions, calling out to him dramatically. She attempted to appeal to him, but Isaac remained utterly unmoved, asking in a flat tone what on earth she was doing. An aside noted that while Estella was 26, her mental age was 19, and she had never seduced a man before. Feeling deflated, she averted her gaze and hesitantly replied that she was trying to seduce him. Isaac addressed her sternly as my dear wife, causing Estella's hopes to flare momentarily, thinking he might have acknowledged her efforts. However, Isaac then stated that his beloved horse, Aless, looked more seductive than she did. Estella was dumbfounded, repeating the name in disbelief. An aside explained that Aless was a 22-year-old horse, deeply cherished by Isaac. Estella froze in shock, realizing the implication of what Isaac had just suggested. She cried out indignantly, asking if he meant she was less seductive than a horse. Isaac ignored her, getting into bed and pulling the covers over himself. Still incredulous, Estella insisted he couldn't be serious. She pointed out that Aless wasn't even a mare, it was a stallion. Isaac suggested Estella should try her seduction techniques on a nanny or a maid to see how they reacted. He added that if her goal was to make him laugh, she had succeeded, though he found it somewhat cute. He also considered it rather troublesome in a way. The next morning, Isaac was getting ready, thinking that even with 3 blankets, he still couldn't fend off the cold. Meanwhile, Estella, still fast asleep, suddenly began to groan in distress. Worried, Isaac wondered if she had a fever. In her sleep, Estella trembled and muttered incoherently, questioning why she had to remember. Hearing this, Isaac called her name. She continued sleep-talking, mumbling about needing to remember to save someone, saying it was the only way. Suddenly, she screamed in anguish, "No, no." A concerned Isaac tried to wake her. In her dream, a younger Estella heard an older version of herself weeping, followed by a loud voice blaming itself, pleading for her children not to go, and urging her to remember. The younger Estella looked around, confused, calling out for Estella. The older Estella's voice continued its desperate cries to save her precious children. The distressed younger Estella yelled for her to stop, saying she didn't want to hear any more and begging her to listen. Isaac managed to wake Estella just before the nightmare continued. She gasped, calling his name. Still worried, Isaac asked if she was all right, mentioning she had been talking in her sleep. Surprised, Estella asked if she really had, then quickly apologized. Isaac reassured her that it wasn't too loud, seeing that she seemed okay, telling her he would head downstairs first. Just as Estella started to respond, Isaac left without another word. Estella told her nanny that she had planned to trade telling Isaac about her dream for his agreement to attend a ball. She then requested to be left alone to wash up and think. She felt conflicted, wondering why she had that dream today, and what her older self, Estella, was trying to show her. She struggled to recall, overwhelmed by a lingering sense of sorrow. Once ready, she descended the stairs, already feeling weary. She saw Lou and Lucy playing while Isaac lifted them into the air. The children greeted her excitedly. As Estella smiled watching them, her heel suddenly wobbled, causing her to lose her balance and fall. Everyone panicked, and Isaac rushed to her side. He demanded to see her injury, and she winced, admitting her foot hurt badly. It was visibly swollen and trembling from the pain. Nana quickly volunteered to fetch the doctor, while Isaac swept Estella into his arms, causing her to blush. Seeing their mother hurt, Lou and Lucy burst into tears, pleading with her not to be injured. She forced a reassuring smile, telling them she was fine despite the intense pain. Isaac carried her upstairs, the children insisting on following them. Once inside the room, he gently placed her on the bed. As she settled, he scolded her, saying she should have been more careful on the stairs, that even the children were more cautious. Estella insisted she had been careful, but Isaac asked skeptically if she was implying the stairs had moved on their own. She hesitated, then admitted her leg had simply given out suddenly, brushing it off as nothing serious. Before she could finish, Isaac grabbed her injured foot, making her whimper in pain. She cried out, asking why he would do that. Isaac stated nonchalantly that it seemed like a big deal to him. The doctor arrived, cautioning Isaac against gripping Estella's foot too tightly. Isaac nodded in understanding. Estella immediately asked if her ankle would heal before the ball next month. The doctor advised her to rest it well until then and take it easy. Estella asked uncertainly if that meant she could attend the ball. The doctor noted doubtfully that she had a habit of prolonging her suffering by doing exactly what she was told not to do. She hesitantly asked again if she could go, and the doctor countered, asking if she would listen if he said no. She admitted she probably wouldn't, leading him to remark that her mind hadn't matured past 19. Isaac apologized, and the doctor reassured him the injury wasn't severe, but warned it could worsen. Seeing Estella's eagerness, Isaac acknowledged she had been looking forward to the ball, and asked the doctor to at least remind her to be careful. Isaac sighed, frustrated that Estella seemed more concerned about the ball than her injured ankle. The doctor then asked if she had recovered any lost memories, but Isaac confirmed she hadn't. Changing the subject, Isaac inquired about herbs that might help reduce nightmares. The doctor asked if nightmares were keeping him awake, mentioning available herbs but noting side effects for men. Isaac clarified they weren't for him. His wife had been having nightmares, and he wanted to ensure her health didn't decline again. The doctor agreed to have the herbalist send over the best remedy, and Isaac expressed his gratitude. Estella excitedly told Isaac that since the doctor said her ankle wasn't too badly injured, they should be able to attend the ball. However, Isaac reminded her he had never agreed to go and suggested she focus on recovering instead of running around. She teased him playfully, pointing out he was the first one to rush to her side when she fell, asking the children for confirmation. Lou and Lucy nodded eagerly, praising their father's strength and mimicking his actions. Scooping Estella up, examining her ankle gravely, and waiting outside for the doctor. Embarrassed, Isaac insisted it was only natural for him to worry about his wife, but warned her not to use it to persuade him to attend the ball. Estella dismissed his reluctance, teasing that he was always so defensive. Isaac froze at the remark, and Estella added confidently that it was a well-known fact. As Lou and Lucy snuggled against her, she playfully declared that Isaac was as impenetrable as steel, and whoever could breach his defenses would win. Isaac blushed, but Lou and Lucy quickly rushed to him, hugging him while pointing out that his ears were red. Flustered, he tried to cover it up by blaming the sunset, only to realize there wasn't one. He thought to himself that breaching his defenses wasn't impossible, but it could never be done through force. It was just like the fable of the wind and the sun. Meanwhile, Estella's soft giggles drew his attention, making him wonder what she was plotting next. She suddenly put on an exaggerated, teary-eyed expression, lamenting how terribly hungry she was, yet unable to reach the dining table because of her injured leg. Lou and Lucy gazed at her with sympathy as she sniffled dramatically, declaring that her precious little ones couldn't possibly carry her. Witnessing this, Isaac scooped up both children, but they remained resolute, urging him to help Estella instead. He was a good father, wasn't he? They reminded him. Lucy then asked him to put her down. Lucy and Lou dashed over to Estella, hugging her affectionately. Watching them, Isaac felt a pang of betrayal, thinking how much time he'd spent cuddling and playing with them, only for them to side with their mother. Estella looked up at Isaac with hopeful eyes, but he responded shrewdly, suggesting someone fetch a cane for the princess. The children pouted, their faces falling in disappointment. The children declared him mean. Estella began to walk with the cane, but Lou and Lucy, still worried, clung tightly to her. She gently reassured them, thanking them for their concern, but also warning that this was dangerous. Lucy insisted that since father wouldn't help, they didn't want her to fall again. Estella found their concern incredibly sweet, yet recognized the potential hazard of the situation. Isaac sighed, stepping behind Estella to support her. He explained to the children that she couldn't possibly walk if they kept holding on to her like that. Lucy asked excitedly if he was helping now, and he conceded that he was. Estella attempted to walk, remarking as she went how surprisingly difficult it was to use the cane. Isaac warned that there was no way she would recover within a month, and that she should forget about the ball. She refused adamantly, declaring she would recover even if it meant drinking an elixir of immortality. Then she asked if he would accompany her once she was well. But Isaac dismissively told her to enjoy it by herself. Seeing his resistance, Estella realized she had no choice but to resort to another method. Isaac stood at the knights' training grounds, observing their drills while pondering Bertrand's recent silence, wondering what schemes he might be hatching. A knight approached him hastily, informing him with some hesitation that something awaited him at the front of the training grounds. Confused, Isaac questioned who would possibly deliver something here. The knight, eager to return to his training, urged him to go see for himself. Isaac walked toward the carriage, feeling a sense of unease as he prepared to open the door, suspecting this might be something sent by Bertrand. As he swung the door open, cascades of yellow blossoms tumbled out. The entire carriage was filled to the brim with flowers. He stared, utterly stunned by the unexpected sight, as the surrounding knights gasped in admiration, appreciating the beautiful display. One exclaimed excitedly that Princess Estella had sent these flowers to her husband. Isaac, however, felt a twinge of disappointment rather than pleasure, realizing this must have been why she had asked about his favorite flower earlier. A flashback revealed their previous conversation, Isaac telling Estella she wouldn't heal in a month and should forget the ball. A determined Estella insisting she would recover before then, even if she had to drink a magical potion, and asking if he would accompany her. When Isaac had dismissed the idea, she had huffed indignantly before abruptly asking what his favorite flower was. He had simply replied that he didn't have one, but she had grinned, clearly not believing him. Back in the present, Isaac recalled her knowing expression, wondering how she had figured out he liked flowers despite his denial. He had to admit, Estella always managed to defy his expectations, constantly surprising him. As the knights began gathering the fallen flowers, one informed Isaac that the task was complete. Isaac hesitated for a moment before acknowledging, praising their work. One of the knights noted Isaac's unusually subdued reaction, nervously asking if he was all right, wondering if he felt insulted, yet sensing something was amiss. Isaac, however, merely instructed them not to forget watering the flowers, leaving the knight bewildered. He found it hard to believe that the same man, who wielded his sword so ruthlessly, could now be concerned about flowers. Shaking off the thought, he decided not to dwell on it. That evening, as Isaac returned to the manor, he recalled how the flowers had become the topic of the entire day. Upon arriving home, however, he noticed it was darker than than usual. When a servant didn't respond, he remembered that Estella and the twins disliked the dark. Then a maid informed him that dinner was ready, surprising him as it was earlier than usual. As Isaac opened the dining room door, he was greeted by Lucy, dressed as a waitress, welcoming him enthusiastically. The entire setup looked rather special, making him turn towards the servants, who were already sweating nervously. Lucy took Isaac's hand, guiding him to his seat, making him wonder if this was some sort of elaborate restaurant roleplay. His confusion deepened when he noticed Estella eating calmly, as if nothing unusual was happening. Meanwhile, Lou approached Isaac carrying a dish, but he looked nervous, wobbling as he held the plate. Just as Lou was about to stumble, Isaac instinctively stood up out of concern, calling out his name. However, Lou miraculously regained his balance and firmly instructed Isaac to sit down. Lou placed a bowl of soup before Isaac and cheerfully invited him to enjoy it. The soup, however, looked rather messy, stirring a pang of pity in Isaac's heart. He glanced towards Lou and Lucy, wondering if they were merely playing around or if there was a deeper reason behind their actions. Estella suddenly raised her hand, calling for a waiter. Lucy quickly responded and approached her. Isaac watched closely, growing suspicious, wondering what Estella was planning. Estella whispered something to Lucy, further piquing Isaac's curiosity. Shortly after, Lucy and Lou began whispering to each other as well, making Isaac even more wary of their intentions. Then, Lucy carefully carried a tray laden with drinks, while Lou followed closely behind, holding another tray filled with flower petals. Both made their way towards Isaac. Lou and Lucy wobbled anxiously as they approached Isaac with the trays, causing him concern. Estella, also worried, watched them carefully from the corner of her eye. Lou and Lucy placed the trays on the table, right in front of Isaac. Lucy, attempting to maintain the role play, announced that it was a delivery from the lady over there. Isaac stared at the tray, noticing the flower petals, utterly perplexed. Meanwhile, Estella watched him with a radiant smile, even offering a playful wink. The scene shifted back to earlier that morning at the doctor's clinic. The doctor, amazed by Estella's progress, declared she had recovered enough to walk without crutches. An excited Estella exclaimed that after 2 weeks of confinement and Isaac's interference, she was destined to attend the ball after all. She felt a wave of relief, though she admitted to herself that it hadn't been all that bad. Jesse then mentioned there was a market at the docks that day, as a ship from Caliana was due to arrive. The butler suggested they all go on an outing together. Estella, brimming with confidence from her recovery, insisted they all needed some fresh air. However, the butler expressed concern, advising her to be more careful for the next few days. A maid echoed his sentiment, worried that her condition might worsen. Estella brushed off their worries, assuring them the doctor had said she was fine. She promised to let them know if she felt tired and excitedly announced for everyone to get ready. Meanwhile, Lou and Lucy's nanny was helping them get dressed. A curious Lucy asked Estella where they were going. Lou, noticing Lucy's attire, tugged at the nanny, insisting he wanted to wear the same thing. The nanny gently pointed out that the hat Lucy wore was for girls. Lou, unfazed, firmly stated it didn't matter and politely requested one just like it. As Estella helped Lou get dressed, she explained they were heading to the docks. A curious Lou asked what the docks were. Estella described it as a place where they could see the vast sea and watch ships arrive, bringing goods from faraway lands. She told him excitedly that although they might not have visited those places themselves, they could still see and experience unique items originating from those regions. Lou, thrilled by the idea, exclaimed that it sounded like great fun. Upon arriving at the docks, Estella handed a pouch of money to the maids, instructing them to buy something nice for themselves and meet back at the same spot in 4 hours. Then, taking Lou and Lucy by the hand, she asked brightly if they were ready. The trio moved forward with excitement, soaking in the bustling atmosphere. While exploring, Estella appreciated Caliana's warm climate, thankful that it allowed flowers to bloom all year round. She recalled Isaac's favorite, yellow daffodils, hoping she might find some here. At 14, Estella had found herself outside a grand party, feeling weary and annoyed. She complained that all the sons of nobility sounded exactly the same, each one interested only in wealth and power rather than genuine conversation. She muttered irritably that if they were going to be so dull, the least they could do was be better looking. When one of the young nobles came looking for her, calling out that their conversation wasn't finished, Estella panicked and quickly hid behind some bushes. Realizing she needed to escape, she spotted a nearby house and slipped inside without a second thought. Inside, she discovered a young Isaac watering flowers. Startled by her sudden appearance, he looked at her in confusion, asking who she was.